Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing this morning? Oh, let me adjust my camera there. There we go. Good morning. How is everyone doing this morning? Yes, it's early on a Sunday. It is a little after 9:30. We are kicking off the pre-show for the Stage of Reason. So I hope you all are doing well. Oh man, it has been a weekend, been an interesting weekend. Did a little bit of I'm kind of like still waking up. I did because St. Patty's is tomorrow, and celebrating St. Patrick's Day, in the American style, is a thing that I commonly do. You see, I'm wearing green as well, because it's on Monday. St. Patty's is on Monday. It's tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So we celebrated here where we are. We had a weekend celebration that the city was doing. So we did a pub crawl last night, and woo, it was only six bars, and I didn't even drink that much. But I don't even really drink like often. So, but we hit six places and had a drink at six places. So I'm kind of like, oh, and got some sleep. But nonetheless, I was ready and raring to go get this bad boy started because this is the third Sunday of the month. So it is time for Stage of Reason. So I hope you all are doing well. So, yes, let's see who we have in the live chat right now. Let's kick things off really, really quick so I can get warmed up, and get going. Let's see. Raven Darkstar is here. First one in. And Raven, I have sent an email as to what is going on because I've gotten shipment notifications for a lot of the stuff, but not for your prize. So I'm waiting to hear back from Teespring to see what's going on with that. So I don't know what the delay is on that. If there's an overseas thing, there might be an issue. I'm not sure, but I'll find out. Hopefully, I'll find out soon. Okay, because other people have gotten their prizes, so I don't know what's going on there. It should have already been there, so I'm double checking. Bellywood, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Armageddon's Fire as well. Good day, everyone. It's good to see you, Armageddon's Fire. Left-Handed Jedi as well. Says morning, Padawans. Good to see you, Left-Handed Jedi. Tony Regime, good to see you. Got the notification. That's good to hear. Thank you so much. Vic Lit, good morning to you. Armageddon's Fire, thank you so much for a $4 super sticker for Australian. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Always love seeing those super stickers. Mr. Colby 2 says, first time I got the notification. Awesome. Very cool. Turner Team says, how much weight have you lost? Looking good, Bridge the Divide. Thank you very much. I am currently on my weekly weigh-ins are on Monday, so I'll know tomorrow. But I think I'm down like somewhere in between probably 110 and 115 is where I'm probably at. So I still have to work out today, and then I work out tomorrow, and then I do my weigh-in. So I'll find out, but probably somewhere in between. I'll be down like in between 110 and 115. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ollie Man, good to see you, and greetings. Love our neighbors up there in the Great White North. Sorry for all the shenanigans down here. Sorry for all the shenanigans down here. Lieutenant Jedi with a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. $3 Freedom Dollars. Do appreciate that. Clive Wells is here. Good to see you, bud. Captain Bud as well. There's not enough third Sundays. Yes, this is true. Not enough third Sundays. Ravedark says, boycott St. Patty's till we get one for us Scots. Ah. Well, it's the way we, because, my dad's son's Irish. So the way the Irish, we kind of do it here in America. If we were in Ireland, we would just be like, hanging out at the house, just eating with family. And it was pretty quiet, pretty chill. I Killed Earl. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. This is Hello Babies. Good to see you. I Killed Earl. Turner Zeeb says, if it's overseas, it's probably a tariff issue. There just might be. See, I'm not 100% sure. So we're trying to figure it out. UKPI says 6 bars doesn't equal a pub crawl. Well, certainly not in Scotland. This is true. There's just not that many here. Technically, the crawl was 7. It was like 7 bars, but the 7th bar, the event lasted from 4 until 11. But there were 7 bars that were participating. And we got like a punch card, and if you hit all the bars, you turn the punch card in at the last place, and then that place will, and then you get entered in for a raffle or something like that. But one of the bars closed early, so we didn't get to hit them, which was this arcade place, which was kind of like it's like an arcade gaming hall, bar, and a little. I think it's also a bistro. So, but unfortunately, we didn't get to hit them. But we did hit 6 of the 7. You only had to hit 6 because they had 6 spots on there, so they wanted them closed. But it was fun. It was a blast. We had a good friend of mine. My best friend came in from out of town. My best friend for like the past 30 years came from out of town, and we didn't even know that there was a crawl going on. We just decided to go out for it. We went out to eat, and then was like, let's go get some dinner. So we went out to go eat, and then we found out. Then we said, let's go to this local brewery that just to have a beer. And then so we went there, and we found there was a crawl going on. It was like, what? And so we decided to do the crawl. It was kind of a last minute thing. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It's pretty quiet because we're so rural. Because I'm so where I am is so rural. It was really quiet. It's not like doing a crawl back in Dallas like at Deep Ellum, where it's just insane. So plus, it was just nice. It was nice, chill, fun. We got to play games and listen to some really terrible karaoke. But it was a lot of fun. Let me see who else we got here. 60 Second Skeptic is here. Good to see you, 60 Second, as well as Scott Duke. Scott Duke says, I've lost about 30 pounds. Need to lose many, many more. Got any tips, bridges, and five? Okay. I mean, the only tips I have is that, I knew what I needed to do. So, like, as far as diet and exercise goes, I know what my body needs. And I know, so like, I just know myself well enough because I've done it before in the past. It was just a matter of wanting to do it. And I wanted to get back into competitive running. Like, I want to be able to do like the Halloween 5K that's coming up this year. So there's other like, and there's like a 10K in the summer that I want to do. So there's like competitive running I want to do. And to get back to it, I just needed to shed the poundage that I'd put on by just kind of like giving up. So I didn't really give out. Just kind of like, I didn't care. So I wasn't worried about it. And I decided, I want to get back into doing that stuff because it's fun. So it's a lot of fun getting out there, doing obstacle courses and doing like competitive running. And I was like, I'm going to start doing it again. So I assembled my home gym and I just work out daily. So I think that's one of the things that makes it easier is my gym is in my house. So I don't have to like drive somewhere to go to my gym. I can just like, okay, it's time to go to the gym. And then I just go into the other part of the house where the gym is. And I just work out there and then I'm done. So that was part of it. Not to mention, the food that I bring in the house. I don't really eat out because to eat out anywhere, it's like a 30-minute drive. And so like, I don't eat fast food. I don't order DoorDash or anything. Everything we cook here and we eat a lot of organic because it's so much easier when you're living rurally instead of urbanly. So it may just be access, whatever, but I think it's about mentality. I wanted to do it. So I started doing it and it's just sticking to that routine, watching what you eat, knowing what you need, and then, doing and then putting in the work. So it's the best thing I can do, be in the headspace for it. 6 Second Skeptic says, but good luck on your journey, dude. 30 pounds down is awesome. That's an awesome thing. So good luck on it and just keep plugging away. Sometimes you're going to hit those plateaus that are going to be kind of discouraging. Push right through them. Just do what you can to push right through them and be patient with yourself. Don't get discouraged and give up. That's a big thing. It's a head game. Really, it is. 60 Second Skeptics is still going to watch the world at World's End, dude. All right, the World's End. Yes, the third in the Cornetto trilogy, in Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy. Amazing movie. I love it. We were sitting there. We got to a certain point in the night we were quoting that movie. Be careful of blue stuff. Yes, blue stuff in the pubs. Yes. Robots filled with blue stuff. I can't believe can't believe Trump is being so mean to our hat. Yeah, Canadians don't deserve it. But Canadians, as optimistic and polite as they are, Canadians, they'll put their foot down in the most, polite and, optimistic way. They will put the boot down if they need to. Let's see who else we got. Tony Regime says, my dad took my uncle on a pub crawl in Windsor. There were over 70 pubs at the time. They didn't get halfway. Oh, 70 pubs? Wow. Captain says, I've been to Trees in Deep Ellum, so I've been to Trees a number of times. Trees is where I was one of the first bars I ever went to when I was legal, when I had to legally drink. And we saw Hellified Fun Crew there, which was a lot of fun. It was during Halloween. It was Hellified Fun Crew's Halloween weekend. And so we went down there and saw Hellified Fun Crew perform, and guy got into the mosh pit. It's a whole story. It's a big story. Raven Darkstar says, did you hear they are looking to force any Canadian who stays in the States for more than a month to do a DNA test? What? So I did not hear that. The most recent thing I heard is the stuff about Pegasus, is about Trump lifting the sanctions on Pegasus and likely so it could be used against Americans. So I heard something about that, but I haven't looked into details. It's just getting wilder and wilder. That's what it is. Let's see. Your script don't fly. Good to see you. Morning says hello, heathens. Good to see you. Azo Teddy Bear 64 says I'm here. Now you can start. We're just getting warmed up, bud. Thank you so much for becoming a new member. I do appreciate that. I got the notification that you became a member, so I appreciate that. That you got your membership going. And Azo Teddy Bear 64 has been a member for 28 months. Look at that. Just mentioned it. Thank you so much, Azo. Do appreciate that. It's a me. No, sorry. It's a me, Mario Rui. Yes, has been a member for 32 months. Thank you so much, Mario. I do appreciate that. And Lieutenant Jedi has been a member for 14 months. You guys rock. Appreciate all that support. Ike Little says, who is the stage guest today, JL? We have actually, I believe that there will be two. I have two people scheduled, and it's going to be amazing because with two people on the stage next to me, that means I get to do 17% less talking. So I'm really, really excited about that. And you all probably are too. So 17% less talking for me. But we will. I will let you. I kind of want it to be a surprise. That's why I don't put the names in the deal. I kind of want it to be a surprise. So, but you will see. Captain Bud says yes. So many good shows. My favorite there has been Mushroom Head. Awesome. I fucking love Trees. Trees was amazing. That was one of my favorites. Let's see who we got. It's amazing. Thanks for the. Let's see. Trump says Trump needs to be educated about the Commonwealth with all his threats towards Canada. Trump needs to be educated on many things, but the guy is just like not smart. He's anti-science, whatever. He's, driving us back to I guess what he thinks is the golden age of the 50s. I have no idea. New piece of insanity he's up to. This is true, Clive. This is true. What new piece of insanity? Redmond says no, I'll keep you talking. Nice. Agent says jail's head will explode if he talks 17% less. It's true. Mr. Anti-Idiotic, good to see you. Morning. So for anybody new here, I think I caught everybody in the chat so far. For anybody new here, this is the Stage of Reason. I do this every third Sunday here on Bridge the Divide, every third Sunday. We host a stage on the Politics Discord. The link for the Politics Discord is down in the description. And we talk to me and a guest or a couple of guests. We'll talk to believers about what they believe and why, covering a range of topics like philosophy, theology, science, all kinds of stuff, politics. And we basically chat about that. And, typically the show officially kicks off at 10 o'clock. This is the pre-show where I kind of get warmed up and get everything going. And that's pretty much it. So I'm glad for anybody new that's just kind of hanging out, hasn't said anything. I appreciate you being here. Like I said, the link to the Politics Discord is down in the description. You can use that to join the Discord and join the stage when we kick that off. Just look for Stage of Reason on the Discord list on the channel on the little side list on the side there, and you can come up, talk to us, ask questions, do stuff like that. So good times. Yep, it is a crazy, wild world out there that we are currently dealing with. Lots of not cool stuff, and I don't know where it's going to go. My prediction thus far, since the election was that the first 2 years are going to be chaos. It's just going to be craziness after craziness as the dust kind of settles, from Trump winning the election, and then them trying to pushing against the kind of like velociraptors testing the integrity of the fence. That Trump's administration is going to be doing that with our government and the way we have everything established. Just hitting it everywhere you can, hitting it every place that they can in order to figure out like what they can change and where they could possibly break stuff. And there's going to be court battles, and it's going to go to SCOTUS. It's going to be handled in federal court, and it's going to be pissing and whining and all kinds of nonsense all over the place. And then we're going to see what happens after the midterms. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's hilarious that our president is making threats like we're going to annex Greenland and we're going to take Greenland away from Denmark at any cost. And yet on the backside, quietly asking Denmark for help in sending us eggs and other materials to try and drive the prices down because the supply is so low, so prices are high, and he's trying to get other countries, other world leaders to send us like stuff to help keep the prices down. So, or like, to artificially deflate it with help with other countries, and it's insane. It's just nuts, just chaos. So it's going to be crazy. We're going to see what happens. Honestly, don't know. I don't. Liverpool man, 1990s. As a British person, what could be done with the current administration? The number one thing that countries that are not us, like Americans, there are several options that we can do, but unfortunately, the way it is here in America, the mentality of Americans precludes the vast majority of Americans doing what they need to do. The number one way that Americans can affect outcomes in this country, then there's a tried and true way, and that is not doing something. Okay, either not buying anything, like the commerce runs on us, on the citizenry, spending money and going to work. If you wanted to stop the government from doing something, if you wanted to shake things up, then Americans would have to not work and not spend money. Literally stay home. Okay? The problem is that corporations have so much power that they can outlast any kind of strike, any kind of economic strike against the country. Corporations can outlast us. People cannot go that long without paying their rent, without paying their bills, without food. And we just don't have the preparation of enough people that are prepared enough to be able to do that, to force the government to stop and listen. So economic control is in the hands of the people. They just don't have the will nor the capacity to do that. They would have to be willing to give up quite a lot, to sacrifice quite a lot to do it. It could happen, but Americans won't do it. But spending money, hit them in the wallets, is where it is. Outside of this country, there's a number of ways, and it's simply not buying American products. Don't buy products from America. Products come from other countries as well. Buy those products, support those countries, but don't buy products from America. Don't buy made in the USA stuff. Buy from anywhere else. Buy from Canada. Canada makes many great things. Don't buy American whiskey. Buy Canadian whiskey. Buy your stuff from other countries. They boycott American goods. That would be the way, because then the tariffs, whatever tariffs that we're throwing on, don't matter. Because other countries won't need to import that stuff, because the demand for them will go so low that the tariffs won't matter. If there's no demand for American goods outside of the country, then nobody's importing that crap, and the tariffs don't do shit. So, don't buy American. That's the best way that other countries can help. Yeah, boycott us. Boycott American goods. Oh, full on. Go, if you wanted to. I mean, it's completely illegal, but American goods, throw them in the trash. Don't buy any more. Don't purchase them. Just get rid of them, or leave them on the shelves. Leave them on the shelves to collect dust. Leave them on the shelves and then take pictures of them, and then just send it nobody's buying this crap. But boycott U.S. goods. Buy from other countries. Buy from other great countries who are not trying to screw you over. That's the best thing I could say. Let's see. Trump would probably put a 200% tariff on imported eggs anyway, probably. He probably would. Yeah, it's a pity that we don't have a vote of no confidence. It absolutely is, Lieutenant Jedi. It absolutely is. So, but yeah, hit him in the wallets is the only thing that Americans understand. It's the only is economics. It's the only thing we understand. The problem is corporations have way too much power. They have way too much power, and they can rest on their laurels, and they can choke the American people out from any kind of control. So, that's pretty much it. But, like I said, you never know what will happen. Do not know. The big concern right now is a Trump dynasty. Is Trump setting up a dynasty, like a familial dynasty? So when Trump dies eventually, he will die eventually. When he goes, will the mantle pass to Don Jr.? And then will that mantle pass to Eric? And then will that mantle pass to Barron when Barron comes of age? That's what what we would like to avoid. If you're in the words of Charlie Chaplin, as so long as men die, liberty will never perish. So long as men die, Liberty will never perish, the great dictator. So Trump will eventually go. He will expire. Nobody lives forever. He will go. And the world will be well rid of him, and no one will really remember him. Well, he'll be in the history books, unfortunately, but that's pretty much it. But his dynasty is what we don't want to happen. We don't want that. We don't want the mantle passing from Trump to his son, to his other son, to his other son, to the grandkids. We don't want that. A Trump dynasty is something we do not want. So that's true. If he dies in office, then we got Vance. But Vance, I think, is wacky enough that I don't think he would be too easy to kind of like upstage. Vance is just not great, and nobody really has any confidence in him anyway. So I think Vance would, if Trump were to and like just kick it, a stroke or something, and Vance took over, then I think the country would just lose confidence. And then we'd probably fall back into basic, two-party partisan hackery nonsense. And then it would just go on to the next election. It would be, business. It would be a return to business as normal. Because I don't think Vance doesn't have the power, doesn't have the cult of personality or to last very long. To last more than a term. So, or the rest of that term. Oh, Brave Dark said, how could Charlie Chaplin say anything? He did silent films. He did some talkies too. What's The Great Dictator? The huge monologue that he gives at the end of The Great Dictator. It's amazing stuff. One way or another, we'll get Greenland. So this is how Liberty dies, with thunderous applause. Everybody, yeah, pretty much, yeah. My friend and I were talking about this yesterday, and he was very much of the mind that democracy in America dies with a whimper, not with a bang. Yates was right. This is how the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper. The center does not hold. What rough beast this is slouching towards Bethlehem. I'm in a poetic mood at the moment. I mean, I'm built in the U.S. doesn't mean the quality of the U.S. thinks it does. That's true. Yeah, made in the USA is not some indicator of like fantastic quality. It's not. Like, just don't buy American goods. You can boycott American goods. Don't buy and buy other stuff. Buy the same stuff from other countries. The quality is just as good. Trust that you don't need us. You don't need America to hold everything together. I know we like to like posture and make the world think that we need them so desperately, but we really don't. So T.S. Eliot? Is it T.S. Eliot? The center does not hold. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. What rough beast is like that? The Second Coming by Yates. It's W. Yates. Called The Second Coming. Oh, this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whisper. That was Eliot. And then I was thinking of Yates as well. The center does not hold. But yeah, you're right. This is the way the world ends. The way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper. That's T.S. That's Eliot. Right. Okay, I got you. Give me death or give me liberty. Yeah, well, wait, is that backwards? Right. Yeah. Oh, looks like we're about to start. We got 3 minutes, the stage of reason. Here we go. And I'm over here. Let me share this in just a second. All right. Let's fire this bad boy up. Oh, thank you so much, Atomic Punk. I appreciate that. Yeah, just collections all over the place from my years, kind of like involved in the industry, all kinds of fun stuff. Let me share my screen and make sure that my audio is good. Make sure I'm on the right one. There we go. And we're gonna start. And okay, I'm on here. Let me go ahead and mute myself. We're waiting for the others to show up. All right. So we should be kicking that off here shortly. And I think, let me double check something real quick. Yep, we're good to go there. Right. It's funny. It's occasionally I get somebody who thinks it's Michael Myers, which is hilarious. Quill of Numenor. Good to see you. Oh, Quill of Numenor. I like that name. It says just watch Taco's clip of you and the gang destroying PMARS. Amazing dude. That dude aggravates the living piss out of me. That dude is like one of the reasons why really need to be more patient with people. But I have zero patience for that piece of crap. I do not like him as a person. He's just trash. But yeah, it was fun. Me, Leophilius, Colorado Biker, and Taco just hammering the living hell out of him was fun. I know 8-Bit was in there as well, but didn't talk much. But that was a fun time. That was fun. That dude is so dumb. He's just dumb. You know. He says you should have a chat with Johnny. You like the ideas. You got a head start. Cool. Definitely. Oh, sounds good, Tony. Sounds good. Yeah. Agree. Yep. He's worthless. Oh, yeah. He's worthless. Not even. Yeah. Not even as a lol cow. Agreed. Oh yeah. I'm a big Carpenter fan. So I got the Apocalypse trilogy. Got the Thing there. Got Big Trouble. What was it? The Thing. In the Prince of Darkness and the Mouth of Madness, and then of course the two that are right there is Big Trouble and then Christine, and then I've got what was it? Oh, it's all over the place. I can't show it to you at the moment, but yeah, I'm a big Carpenter fan. Yeah, have been for a long time. The entire motherfucking diatribe had me rolling. Nice. I know I put this I know I put it out there. Yeah. I know the notification went out. Did it go out? It's Sunday, so I'm surprised there's nobody in here just yet. See what's going on. Let me message Taco. Well, I hope there's a stage this morning. There usually is, but looking on Politics server and not seeing it. Ah, that might be the problem. Morning, Corsi. Good to see you. Yeah, tacos on it. Apparently it's an admin thing. So I did everything I was supposed to do. You see, I'm a moderator. I'm a mod. That's the star that's up there. I'm a mod, and I started the stage. You watch me do it. I sent out the notification, but apparently there's something on Taco's end that didn't happen. So that's why people aren't saying it. I swear, this kid. So Taco's gonna fix it. He's fixing it as we speak. There we go. Taco's killing me. One of my guests was messaging me. He's like, I can't see it. It's like, well, no, yeah, because Taco screwed it. Well, Taco didn't screw it up. Taco just, I think there was something that wasn't set up. Let's unmute there. All right, morning, people in the audience. I see Zarathian. I see Ollie Man. I see Corsi. Good to see you. Captain Butt. Good to see you. Sorry about the slight delay on that. Apparently there was an admin thing. There was an let me see here. Wait 1 sec. Oh no! There we go. Oh, so annoying. I'm teching like Johnny O this morning. Swear. So, morning, everybody. Good to see everybody. Sorry for the delay on that. Apparently, there was an admin issue. So, Sarathian, good to see you. Ollie Man, Corsi, Captain Butt, morning. My guest should be joining me here shortly in just a moment. LimeWire, good to see you. Good morning. There she is.
Hello. Do I just set my headset right?
Good morning. Sorry about the delay on that. Apparently, there was a some sort of admin thing that Taco had to do that totally screwed up. I don't know what it was. So that's why it wasn't visible.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's normally my fault. So honestly, anything else, I feel bad for you and I'm all on board.
Nice. So I honestly don't know if the announcement went out to Taco. Did the announcement go out to the?
Hey, JL, I need you to end your event if you want everyone with it.
Oh, if I want to kick it, if I want the notification to go out,
because I'm gonna have to link it to the event.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
I can't do that if it's got an event going.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're going to restart this. All right, fantastic. So, Amy, we're going to restart it so the notification goes out. Cool. All right, guys. For the people in the audience right now, we're going to restart this. We're going to kick it off, send out the notification. So, look for the notification. We're going to start it again here in just a moment. Taco's killing me. He's straight up killing me. And yes, Amy Newman is one of the guests today. And I see Taco was messaging me. There we go. And pardon me. Not usually this fun and exciting trying to get the stage set up. Okay, can go back in. Great. Continue on starting. Why do I ask questions I already know the answers to? And start stage. Internal server error. What the hell? Do not start event. I'll do it. Okay. He told me to. This dude is killing me. And join without starting the stage. Okay. There we go. Done. Taco is straight up murdering me. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna let Taco do it. This is crazy. See, this is the audience I'm used to. This is the audience I'm used to here. Although I don't know what Taco's doing. It's like, oh, Taco, you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. He can't do it on mobile. He's got to be on his PC. Hey, John Mayo, it's good to see you. Morning. You're not late. We're just trying to get this thing kicked off. We're having admin troubles on the Politics Discord. Tacos all over the place. Yeah, I killed it. This Taco fucked up both times I've been on, so I can't say I'm surprised. Yeah, Taco, you know. Come on. Come on. Where's... What the hell? Come on, Taco, you're killing me, man. You want something done right, you got to do it yourself. I swear. So apparently, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Apparently, what like the Stage of Reason wasn't connected to the events thing, so the notification didn't go out, and that was on Taco's thing. So I don't know what the hell is going on. I've got an audience here. Okay, but I'm not a mod. Okay. Oh, he's got to get this stuff together. Oh, dude. Okay. Okay. Are we good?
I think so.
Talk, are we good? I guess he had to go. I don't know. So, all right. So that was chaotic. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what the admin stuff, that stuff that Taco has to deal with. But it was a little crazy. So, but I think we're officially started. There is hopefully going to be one more guest that will be joining us. I haven't got confirmation yet, but fingers crossed. Fortunately, we're only about 15 minutes behind, so we'll try and make that up. So everybody that's in the audience, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stage of Reason. I see some new names in there. I see some people I recognize. Razor, good to see you. Corsi, Captain Butt, John Mayos, Andrew O, good to see you. So the way this works is welcome to the Stage of Reason. I am JL, and I host this on my YouTube channel, Bridge the Divide. And I do this every third Sunday of the month. Every month, every third Sunday, we do the Stage of Reason, where we bring up believers to talk about what they believe and why. And so, if you have a question for us, or if you'd like to, demonstrate that, whatever, answer the question that we have on the stage, raise your hand. We'll bring you up. And we like to prioritize believers, and we like to prioritize people who have not been on the stage before. So I appreciate everybody coming in. You rock. My special guest this morning is Amy Newman. Good to see you, Amy.
Good to see you, JL. I'm excited. And thank you as well, Taco, for helping us set this all up.
Thank you, Taco. And I Killed Earl says hello, Amy.
Hey. Hope you're doing well.
Awesome. All right. So, and I appreciate, thank you all the patience in my live chat here on my channel. You guys rock. Sorry about that. It was a bit chaotic. Tech sometimes is just nuts. But thank you, Taco, for helping us get that sorted. Hopefully we'll get some more people in here now that we've got it started up, and hopefully my third guest will be along. I'll probably message them a little bit later and see what's happening there. But yeah, if you're in the audience, feel free to raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage and talk to you about what you believe and why, or if you can demonstrate that your God exists. We'd love to hear if you can. So we'll look forward to hearing from you. So how have you been, Amy? How have things been? It's been a while since you've been up here. Well, up on my stage,
No, but it's good to be back, and things have been well. I've been busy. However, I feel like I can see an end of the tunnel. It's about to be spring break, and then it's about to be summer for me. So as much as I could complain, I shouldn't. I should just wait a little bit longer.
Cool. Cool.
How about you?
Oh, just working and, trying to diligently put out content regularly on my channel, and slowly but surely watching this country that I live in, swirl the drain. I have no idea. Just chaos out there. And so doing what I can, doing my small part,
I could not agree more. I keep on trying to not do politics, and yet my joke that I've learned is that if you don't care about politics, politics cares about you. So
True.
It is, yeah.
That is true. That is true. Let's see. I don't see anybody with their hands up just yet. We'll see. Hang on a second. Let me make sure that this went out. That was today. AA Battery said hello. Good morning, AA. I don't know if you're still in the chat there. We had one person request to speak, but they are no longer in the room, so we'll see if anybody comes back. But yes, welcome to the Stage of Reason if you're new. And if you haven't been up on the stage before, we'd love to have you chat. It's not like Fight Club, you don't have to, but we'd love to bring you up and chat with you about stuff. And as a matter of fact, while I take this moment, I'm going to shoot a message over to my third guest.
While you're doing that, I'll just make things spicy and say God does not exist. Though we do have a hand.
Oh, excellent. Corson, good to see you. Excellent. All right. And Corson got their hands up, so let's bring them up. Like to prioritize believers and people who've never been up. So I think this is Corzon's first time to the stage. Corzon.
Yeah, this is my first time in this type of event. I really don't even know what you mean by stage of reason. Does that mean you're on the good side and I'm on the bad side?
No. The stage of reason is a play on the age, or play on the phrase age of reason. So it's just because it's a stage, but we talk about rationality and stuff like that. We're talking about theology, science, philosophy, whatever, stuff like that. So it's just
Right.
it's a play on words.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I got my guard up because this server can be a little toxic and
That's true.
confrontational. But you guys seem kind of chill.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
So, yeah. So what are we talking about?
So, the name of the stage is can you demonstrate your God? Are you a believer?
Oh, demonstrate my God. I don't see. How come I don't see that anywhere?
I don't know why it's not visible, but like I said, it's not limited. The conversation is not limited to just that. So, but typically we like to talk to believers about what they believe and why, whether they be Christians or Muslims or whatever. But that's typically what we talk about, what people believe and why.
Well, let me gather myself and let's see if Dog has something to say. And I'm going to gather myself, and maybe if I can think of something smart or funny, I'll come back.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
All right, we'll down to the audience. Oh, and by the way, for everybody in my live chat, I do appreciate all of the super stickers and the membership milestones and all the stuff. Anything that comes in during the stage will be automatically starred by the system. StreamYard automatically stars it. I will grab those, and it pulls them off to the side, so I'll be able to read those. So because we get into a good clip, I don't want to break momentum, but I will see those. I won't miss them, and I will be able to read anything that comes in, milestone chats, super chats, or anything else. If anybody has any questions there, if they want to get my attention, best way to do it, and I will read those either at a good breaking point or at a good like midpoint or after the stage is over. So I won't miss out on those. So I won't forget those. And should request Dog or Dowji.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're coming in a little robot-y.
Yeah, I think it's because of the device I'm using. It's an Android phone, so mic's not good. But can you still hear me?
You're coming in really, really scratchy. Are you using a voice changer?
No, it's an Android phone, so the quality is really bad. But can you still hear me? Or
yeah, we can hear you. I think if you just try to speak concise, clearly, so we can understand you.
Okay. I'll try my best. Yes. So I was going to make a rational type of argument for the existence of God. If you'd like to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. But really quick question. Any particular God, or any particular God of a particular faith, or just a generic deistic entity?
Just more of a generic deistic entity, or a higher power, something that gave rise to reality. It can be however people want to interpret that as. They can interpret it as they want, but let's just call it God, right?
Can I ask just one question before you go? Is this going to be a cosmological argument for the existence of God?
Yes.
All right.
Sounds like it's going to be the modal cosmological argument, which is pretty much either gets you to naturalistic deism or even simulation hypothesis. But I mean, the argument itself. Go ahead and give the argument, because I mean, yeah, go ahead and give what you got. Let's hear what you got, Dowji.
Okay, so I have a thought experiment, and so the thing is with thought experiments is that they are hypothetical, so you don't have to really dig into the details of what is this, what is that. It's a hypothetical. Just imagine if this is the case, right? So suppose there are only two minds in existence, right? One of those minds is fully conscious, fully awake, fully alert, fully focused. And the other mind is the complete opposite. The other mind is fully unconscious, fully asleep, inalert, unfocused, etc. Right? So these are the only two minds in existence. There are no other consciousnesses. There are no other entities. Only these two, right? And suppose only one of these minds is responsible for creating the universe that we currently live in, right? So we live in a universe that has cosmic laws. It has laws of gravity, thermodynamics, physics, all of these laws, the stars and the planets and the moons and the solar systems, all of them have some type of cosmic order to them, right? So suppose only one of these minds was responsible for the creation of this universe, right? Using the principle of Occam's razor, where the simplest explanation is most likely the case, which of the two minds would you suppose brought about this universe?
There's a bunch of
Indeed.
So the most parsimonious answer would be the conscious mind, because it's the one that's instantiating. Because the way you describe things, that's the most parsimonious answer. Because you're not multiplying your entities necessarily. I get that. So I'm kind of curious with this hypothetical. You can, as a thought experiment, you can pose whatever you like. But what's the argument that's behind this? If we can get to that, like what's the syllogism that you've got? That's kind of that I guess stems from this.
Well, the argument is based on the principle of Occam's razor, where the simplest explanation is most likely to be the correct one, right? So you yourself just admitted that the simplest explanation is that it was the conscious mind, the awake mind, the alert mind, the focused mind that brought about all this cosmic order, not the unconscious mind, not the unfocused, asleep, inattentive mind, right? And so for me, that just proves God, because...
Okay, well, here's a problem with that. There's no argument there. You're just okay, because number one of the things, you had a hidden assumption within your thought experiment. Okay, the first thing that stood out to me, there's a hidden assumption, and that was the assumption of what is called necessitarianism, and that is that the laws that you describe, the laws that we use to describe reality, you use them as though they are, in your hypothetical, in your thought experiment, you presented them as being prescriptive of the universe. That the universe operates in accordance with those laws. Okay? When that's not the way we look at those laws. So there's a hidden assumption within your thought experiment that I don't agree with, because I don't hold to necessitarianism. I hold to regulatory theory. That the laws that the laws of the universe, they're descriptive in nature. That these are how we describe how things operate how we see them operate in the universe. Okay? So that goes for mathematics, that goes for the laws of logic, that goes for all the laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, any of the laws that you can come up with that describe operations. They're descriptive in nature, not prescriptive. So that was the first major issue. The second one is that just because you can come up with a thought experiment in which someone can envision that a God exists doesn't mean that the God exists in external reality as a concrete thing. So that's what we're looking for, is like, if you believe that God exists, okay, the question is like, why do you believe it exists? And God is not the most parsimonious answer, actually, because the most parsimonious answer would be would not be an assertion, it would be an explanation that details the mechanistic relationship between what is effectively the cause and the effect. If God is the cause and the universe is the effect, then there must be a mechanistic relationship between the two of them that describes how these things go, and that allows for the universe to actually be evidence of the God's existence because of the mechanistic relationship. If you're simply asserting that it's a God, there's nothing to indicate that the God is, but you can't indicate that the God is actually there. Well, that's not parsimonious, because you have to first assume that it exists. You have to assume that it has the first order property of existence, then assume that it has the capacity to do creating. Then you have to assume that the thing that was created is the universe that we exist in. So that becomes problematic. You see what I'm saying there?
And Doge, after you respond, and I just want to take a shot at this two minds thing as well.
And by the way, before you do, Dowji, I want to bring up my second guest, because we had two guests today.
Woo-hoo.
There he is, Mr. Grayson Hogg.
Grayson!
Oh, I was muted. Hello. Thank you all for having me. I was listening a little bit to this conversation in the background. I showed up right when he was arguing that he had Occam's razor on his side. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. I want to see how the exchange goes with Amy.
Yes,
Well,
definitely. I just wanted to bring up Grace real quick. Dowji, sorry for the interruption. I wanted to bring up Grace. He's my second guest for this morning. So big surprise to all my live chat. I didn't want to spoil it, Grayson. So I wanted everybody to be surprised. But Dowji, Amy, take it away.
Thank you. And so I do. I want to just put this first, because I think I agree with what JL said there, which is it's more of an assertion and a bunch of assertions that we would have to take on board before we were to even go down that road of conscious versus fully conscious. In fact, let me just talk about your argument itself. You said we had to assume that there was two minds. First of all, I don't know why we would be posing that hypothetical, because that doesn't seem to be how minds formed. It seems to be, from an evolutionary stance, that minds formed from not minds. So from organisms that had nothing that we would call a brain or consciousness or sentience. And I also want to stress that a conscious being is indeed the only type of creator. And those are animals. They're the only form of creators that we know of. And they don't seem to cause any sort of natural events. And so gravity doesn't seem to come from a conscious being. It doesn't seem to be that evolution came from a conscious being. And so I don't understand why you would think this fully conscious being would be making a universe when everything that we know about natural laws is that you do not need a conscious agent. And a conscious agent actually seems to be this complex mechanism that takes billions of years to formulate. So I think that it is an interesting hypothetical, but I don't think it's a hypothetical that applies to this universe.
Yeah, so I would respond to all of that by saying that hypotheticals are just that. They're thought experiments. They're not meant to be taken literally. So this is what I was trying to explain right before I made the argument, is that a thought experiment is just a thought experiment. You don't have to go into the details of what these minds are or made of, etc. Because people take.
Can I pause you? Okay, I agree, because I agree with what you're saying. The problem is, from our viewpoint, the unconscious thing is more likely to be where everything seems to have flowed from, like something like a Big Bang, which has no conscious properties. And the less likely thing is the fully conscious being having created the universe, because we have no examples of that except for the thing that you are trying to prove.
Yes, so I would say that all of the things that you've mentioned are based on your own subconscious beliefs about, consciousness being an emergent property of the material brain and evolution. And all of these are presupposed. You're presupposing in your arguments beliefs you already have. You're not proposing an argument that's just based on, let's say, logic or rationality.
Well, hey, no,
becomes
well,
reason.
I gotta
Science.
I gotta jump there, Dowgy. No, we're not presupposing any of the stuff. We start. You're assuming what you're doing is you're assuming that we are operating top down because believers tend to operate top down. We don't operate top down. We operate bottom up. So we don't assume that there exist things that we can't demonstrate that we have access that we can't demonstrate access to. Okay. We operate with the tools that we have available to us. We don't assume that there are things. We don't assume that we have access to stuff that is just out there that we can't demonstrate that even exists, right? So it's not an assumption of naturalism. It's not an assumption of physicalism or materialism. Okay, it's not an assumption of methodological naturalism or anything of that nature. What it is we operate with the tools we've got. We do work from there, and then we derive conclusions, probabilistically certain conclusions from the evidence that we have without assuming anything else. And we don't start from an assumption of metaphysical positions and then try to interpret evidence to justify the metaphysical positioning. That's not the way it works. That's how you wind up with like confirmation bias and stuff like that.
Real quick, could somebody like maybe Jail or Amy like Steelman Dowgy's argument for me real quick, because I came in and he was saying that Occam's razor is on his side, not on our side. So I'm just curious because that involves making the least number of unnecessary assumptions, right? So then I see him as making more assumptions than me because, again, I didn't come in at the beginning of this argument, but when I came in, he was making the argument that some sort of consciousness is necessary for the, organization of our universe. Which seems to be an assumption that he makes in saying that is an assumption that I don't have. So it seems like he's making one more extra assumption that I'm not making, which I just see, hey, the universe exists. I look around it and it has these properties as like a brute fact. So where's the extra assumption that I'm layering on top that he's not?
Yeah, so the way what we've gone through so far is Dowgy hasn't yet presented an argument like a syllogism in that respect, like premise, conclusion, nothing of that nature. He was presenting a thought experiment, so in the course of that, I was kind of curious, Dowgy, the thought experiment that you presented, like the kind of like thought experiment you presented, is that the reason that you believe that a God exists, or like a naturalistic deism is true? Is that the reasoning behind it? Yeah,
so that's one of many arguments. There's other arguments talking about you've heard of infinite regress. I could use a metaphor for that sort of explains why I believe in God because of that fallacy. Like if you suppose you have a sniper and he's about to take a shot, right? And then he gets orders from his boss and he asks, "Should I take the shot?" Then his boss.
We're familiar with things like the Grim Reaper paradox and the Hamlin's Hotel and stuff like that. But there is the infinite regress is not a logical it's not a logical contradiction. It's not a fallacy. Okay, it's one result. It's one result of the trilemma is what it is. You either get it's just one issue that you run into, but it's not problematic in that respect, because we don't know enough about prior states of the universe to indicate, like, if you're thinking of like infinite regress in a sense of space-time where mathematics has like linear function, then yeah, then how do you get to one point? If there's an infinite, how do you get to a starting point if there's an infinite number of points before that? So like you do run into that, but that's not really how that's not how it works in quantum states in that respect. You can have tenseless states. So it gets really complicated, but the infinite regress is not the problem that a lot of people think that it is. Okay. It's just basically it's an unsolved problem because we can't quantify those states prior to this. We don't really concern ourselves with it. So my curiosity is this all coming from like a point of like a place from incredulity? Like you simply can't see how the universe could be a result of natural processes, or even existence itself, like the universe itself being a brute fact?
Well, for me, it's just the nature of existence. We exist. Existence is weird, right? And we try to explain why we exist, how we came into existence in the first place. And, science largely is the study of finite things that have a beginning and things that have an end, things that can be measured. Whereas religion is largely the study of the infinite, things, that go beyond the comprehension of our human brains to understand, because we have finite brains,
Yeah, no, this is a completely bullshit distinction, I just got to say. Like, science studies things that we don't know if it's finite or infinite. Like, the easiest, lowest hanging fruit example is, I don't know, the universe, dude. Like, science studies the universe around us, which we do not know whether it's finite or infinite. So you can't just put it in a box and say, oh, well, science studies the finite things and religious studying the infinite things. It doesn't work like that. That's a false dichotomy that you have literally constructed in your own imagination.
It's deeply reductive. It's extremely reductive.
And also, like, are you just making that up? Like, did you just pull that out of your hat, or like, are you getting that from a source that you read somewhere?
Well, we live in a universe that experiences.
That doesn't sound like it's an answer to the question I asked you.
Well, it's to do with my own observations. I'm not saying it's 100% correct, which is why I'm arguing them. But yeah, I don't come in with an attitude that I have all the answers or I'm 100% correct on things, and anything anyone else says that's contrary to my views, I should just assume they're wrong and that I'm right, because that's the assumption that most people have. It's usually bad faith,
Well, Dow, I'm sorry.
To their views.
Dow, for the sake of the, hang on a second, Dow, calm down. For the sake of the stage of the thing, like, when the idea, the whole point of it is to try and suss out, like, why you believe what you believe, like the reasoning behind that, like what has convinced you that the truth of this thing. And so when you presented the thought experiment, that you can present thought experiments all day long, but thought experiments don't necessarily, reflect external reality. You can thought experiment about whatever you want. You can add in whatever elements you like. The question is, the question I have, or what we have, is that if you believe that deism is true, okay, like if you hold to naturalistic deism, why do you believe that is true? Because for all intents and purposes, naturalistic deism is completely unfalsifiable. You're talking about a deity that is indistinguishable from anything naturalistic. Okay, like an entity that is completely indistinguishable from the background that it sets upon. So we can't determine if it's there or not, because everything it does is completely naturalistic in nature. Every way it interacts with everything is completely naturalistic. So we can't tell the difference between simple normal processes that occur every day and an action of the god. We can't determine that it's actually there. So it's unfalsifiable, which would warrant belief in it as unjustified. It's like, why would you believe in a thing that you don't know is there, that you can't determine is there? You'd be relying upon your confirmation bias or your incredulity that it could be any other way, something of that nature. So we're looking for the reasoning, the rationale behind it. Why do you believe this thing is true?
So the reason I believe in, I wouldn't say I believe in a deistic God. I'm more of a panentheist, if you know what that is.
Yes, familiar with panentheism.
Yes. So the reason for me personally is because I've had experiences with altered states of consciousness, mostly through psychedelics, that have drawn me to the conclusion that...
Just not with a god.
Well, yeah. So for those who haven't had altered states of consciousness, you have? Okay.
I've done plenty of experiments with LSD, with DMT, with a number of other ones. I went through the phase where I thought like psychotropics were like amazing. Psilocybin, ayahuasca, peyote. What they are is the introduction of chemicals into the human body that require through the metabolic processes, the body is metabolizing them, alter brain states by alter brain states by altering brain chemistry, by altering the neurochemistry of the brain. When you alter the neurochemistry of the brain, it's no different than it just alters it in a specific way. But when you do things like you reduce serotonin, you increase dopamine, when you already like, and various other effects on the body, you're going to get you're basically mucking with the way your body interprets stimuli is what you're doing. The brain interprets stimuli, neurotransmitters are involved in that process, how your brain understands incoming stimuli, both internal and external. When you muck with that neurochemistry, you're going to get very, very wild results. But eventually your body will metabolize the drug. And once the drug has been metabolized, your neurochemistry typically goes back to normal. It goes back to where it usually sits. Okay. Sometimes you kind of flatline out a little bit, then your brain has to kind of like, get the nutrition it needs to kind of like build things back up again. That's kind of like that flatline point, especially after like LSD, because you get that kind of like that zombie phase, and then you crash out, then you wake up and you feel like $1 million. I'm very familiar with that. But just because you mess with the neurochemistry of your brain does not mean that these are like altered states of existence that are like, different realities and stuff. You're just mucking with the chemistry in your head.
Well, I've got a question. I mean, I agree with everything about the neurochemistry there. I've just got a question. Like, what do we do? What are we to make of the people that like have, mutually contradictory experiences on psychedelics? Like somebody meets the Bastet, and somebody else is meeting Hindu gods, and somebody else is meeting mechanical gnomes, and somebody else is meeting space elves. Like, I mean, are all of these part of your mythology of God and gods, or what?
Well, I'm more of a philosophical idealist, if you know what that is. So I believe that it's not matter over mind, it's mind over matter. And so matter essentially comes from mind. The reality that we experience, which is a physical matter reality, proceeds from mind, which is non-physical, non-material, immaterial, right?
So
that is not true. I'm sorry, but that is just patently not true. We know this because mind is a new phenomena, and so it seems that matter has held and anchored all the other chemicals, the entire universe, and just recently comes mind.
especially human minds, like minds of Homo sapiens, like to our degree, is I mean, human beings, I think it was like we've been around for like 300,000 years. So as far as the age of the Earth goes, or the age of life on this planet, was a relatively new phenomenon, to our extent. But other minds exist; they just don't exist to the degree, or they're not capable of the degree of stuff that we're capable of. But to say that like other organisms don't have minds is just kind of silly. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just saying, every time I come across an idealist in the wild, I always just am curious, like, why do you think that? Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I have friends that are idealists, like, and I never, I never hear a good answer about like, why are you an idealist? What reason do you have to believe that is true?
Right. It's like I understand metaphysical idealism. I'm not a metaphysical idealist. I have I as well, Grace. This is interesting, Grace. And I have a friend who is a metaphysical idealist, but he also suffers from aphantasia. And I think that, and I'm wondering if there's like a correlative, like the correlative relationship between his aphantasia and him being a metaphysical idealist. I think that there might be.
Could you maybe this is sidetracking, but I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, isn't aphantasia where you're not able to construct mental imagery?
Yes. Yeah.
And so why would that contribute to them being an idealist? I don't really.
So,
could you wait 1 second? Could you bridge that divide for me?
So the idea being that metaphysical idealism, the idea that the mind in and of itself is literally, the highest form of reality, or like consciousness, or like ideas or concepts, however you want to play with this. But he doesn't have the capacity to formulate images in his head. So he has no mind's eye is what it is. So everything external of himself is just what he sees is just what is in front of him. So his perception, he can't internalize things when he's not looking at it. So he can't visualize an elephant unless he's physically looking at an elephant. And so I think his inability to conceptualize things without interacting with them may play some sort of role into why he has accepted metaphysical idealism. I don't know. I have to do more thought on this, but I think that it feels like there might be something there. I could be just, speculating entirely. I never thought about the possibility of that because aphantasia is so rare. But, I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting thought. That's all.
And I think mind has to be crucial to religious people, that it has to be this conscious agent. Now, I guess pantheism might be a little bit different. However, I just don't understand why putting this weight on consciousness, because I think we have such an innate bias to how cool consciousness is. It is to us the bee's knees, the most amazing thing, and yet the universe doesn't seem to value it this much. It took a long, long time to get here. I know the universe is actually going to go on way longer, but it needed something like carbon. It needed something like multicellular processing. And so it took actually a bunch of other actions, other contingencies within evolution to eventually get the circuitry needed for us to have conscious beings that are really creators, true creators, are animals. I'll keep on making this claim because I'm waiting for the first non-animal. It may be a computer. It may be made out of silicone. However, I would be even more impressed. A non-material creator, there's no evidence for it. And it is just, it's so impractical. Like from an engineering standpoint, it just doesn't make sense. But I'd love to know why.
Yeah, so Dowji, how do you get around what Grayson brought up? How do you get around the confirmation bias issue? Because when individuals have psychedelic experiences, when they go on trips, the content of it is typically through it. We see this in experimentation in lab studies. We see that their trips are typically influenced by the things that they believe, the things that they carry into the trip, the baggage they carry with them. So, which is why you get people who see different stuff, and they have different. If you anticipate a certain thing to happen during the trip, like if you focus on that, use it as like a meditative thing, then you can actually influence your trip to like do that. So if you're expecting to see gods or expecting to have certain emotions and you focus on that as part of like a ritual in a ritualistic sense, you can influence your trip to reinforce what your expectations. So how do you get around the confirmation bias that is typically shown in psychedelic trips?
Yeah, so that sort of goes into what Carl Jung was talking about when he's talking about the collective unconscious and archetypes, things that you carry into these types of altered states of consciousness. And yes, I agree. Everyone has biases, and so they will essentially, see things that are already familiar to them because of a fear of the unknown, of things, that are outside of their cultural framework or religious framework. And yeah, that's a good critique. But with me personally, with my psychedelic experiences, I've actually had communication with certain other consciousnesses, so to speak, and which seemed intelligent enough. And I've developed relations with one, and it seemed real enough to me. It didn't seem like it was all in my head.
You were on drugs. That's how do you prove that it just wasn't your mind? You know who could have been generating all of these other voices and conscious thoughts? You. So, like, how do you take your bias out of this system of just taking drugs and then just assuming what happens on the drug is real?
Dude, I can tell you, I've been so out of my, I've been so blitzed. Okay, one time I can tell you the stories I can tell you of my experiences on psychedelics is hilarious. I've had fantastic ones where I've meditated and done interesting stuff. I had one where I legitimately believe I felt like I fell in love with a wall because the texture of the bricks in the wall was just so inviting. So I've had weird experiences. I've seen fuzzy blue caterpillars with pink heads that glow in the dark crawling on the walls and stuff. I've seen all kinds of weird stuff. I've had ones where it looked like the universe was just like undulating, where the sky was just undulating in front of me. So I've had like really, really calm and chill ones. I've had really, really crazy and excitable ones. I've had bad ones. I've had more positive ones and good ones, but I fell in love with a wall once. It doesn't mean the wall loved me back. You know,
Dowdy, can I ask you a quick question? Do you think that it is at least a possibility that your psychedelic experiences could, in principle, be explained by like the sort of like chemistry that J.L. Warren was describing earlier, as in like the drug that you consumed crossed into your blood-brain barrier, had a, you know, diffusion pattern that was like very unique, like on a molecular level, diffused across your brain, hitting coming into contact with neurons and activating them, and then all of a sudden, from your perspective, right, you've got random like neurons all firing. Your brain then has to interpret, okay, wait, what is going on here? So in order to interpret these random firings, it then constructs it into a sort of narrative that can make somewhat of a narrative sense to your conscious identity, and that is what you are experiencing as the drug trip. Do you acknowledge that it would be possible to describe the experiences that happen to you with this model?
Yeah, so that's more of a materialist, reductionist view. Well, for me, it's not just that. I've also had, so the US government, they had a gateway experiment. If you guys heard of that, the CIA gateway experiments, where they had people, and many of them were able to have out-of-body experiences and remote viewing, where they're able to guess what's in certain.
Well, I do know that the CIA discontinued that project because they were not getting any results. Like they were not getting any efficacious results more than random like noise, and so they discontinued the project because it was a waste of money.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
also,
well-
I just want to notice, like, I was just asking you whether or not you think it's possible, or are you saying that the physicalist view that we are presenting that explains your drug trip, are you claiming it is an impossibility, that it could not be an explanation? I know that you don't think it's the explanation. I was asking you, do you think it's even possible?
So you're asking me if a more material reductionist explanation is possible.
I want to know
Sorry,
if you think that it is a possibility for an explanation for your psychedelic experience. Like if you think it's even, if you even could possibly describe what happened to you.
Yeah, what I would say to that is possible, yes, right? Because the brain naturally produces DMT before you die, right? And so, which is quite
That's
fast.
actually another common myth. Like the DMT that's produced in your body is just like a biochemical intermediary step in the synthesis of like tryptophan, like an amino acid. It's not like your body is releasing endogenous DMT when you die. That's like a common but factually incorrect myth.
It's not like you begin. It's not like your body begins the dying process and all of a sudden it floods it with like ayahuasca levels of DMT. It's not the way that works.
But
No,
Doge, can
people
I
who
ask
have-
you? Like, I feel like this is also something that both JL and Grayson were really trying to hit on. I have tripped on DMT many, many times. I have never met God. And so, why do you get access to God from the psychedelic and I'll tell you, I've had some strange experiences. I thought I was in a cabin for 50 years and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Well, Amy, have you met any other entities that you felt in the trip were other entities that had consciousness that were not you?
I think the Domino's pizza delivery. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Okay, well, I have. So,
there you go.
like, I'm just saying, like, this is not an experience that is like uniquely depending on your beliefs or whatever. Like,
Oh.
I was presented with a gift from a pair of benevolent hands that were presenting it to me. It's just like, I didn't interpret this as being God. It was like a pair of Mickey Mouse gloves.
Sure. And I have interactions with, I guess.
Oh, and let me just clarify. This was on DMT. I'm not. This was not just like a religious vision that I had or whatever.
Yeah, well, no, I think people can see and talk and have conversations, entire interactions with agents that appear to be either otherworldly or from other minds, but I guess that would be the point, I think, of psychedelics, is you are messing with your brain. And so the operating system by which it normally works by is just all jumbled up, and you get weird interactions that might interact more like a dreamlike state. And so I think there's perfectly naturalistic explanations. In fact, what I would be telling you, Doge, is we're not telling you didn't have those interactions. What we're telling you is just the source by which those interactions came about. We just think is entirely neurochemistry and not supernatural.
Yeah, I would actually, I've gone so far as to like make a statement of like as an atheist, I do think that the closest that you can get to receiving a message from the universe is through the psychedelic drugs, because it is the unique arrangement of molecules in the universe at the exact time that you did those drugs that is what creates the unique diffusion pattern of those molecules. Like every time that you do a drug, it's going to be a slightly different diffusion pattern on a molecular scale, and it's going to be influenced by the entire past history of like the molecules of the universe. So it's like basically the entire universe is like a predicated like to the exact pattern of diffusion that your brain is interpreting as a message. Like this like drug hits neurons randomly across the blood-brain barrier, and your brain then is interpreting that as like, oh wow, like this god or this elf or this robot or this giant Cthulhu monster is trying to tell me that like I should be nicer to my cat, or whatever the message is. But like that message interpreted by your brain, like you are interpreting a random diffusion pattern as a message. Like you are deriving meaning from this random diffusion pattern of molecules. But that is still like, I mean, in a sort of pseudo-religious sense, that's like almost the closest that you could get to a direct communion with the universe at large.
Well, I mean, it depends, I guess, on how we define, because I would say just us talking with each other is the universe interacting with itself. That kind of is sometimes the conscious mechanism. So I guess I can't 100% disagree with your former statement. It just depends on how we define things. I think there is a very good reason to try psychedelics. I always say, try a psychedelic once a year, or at least try a psychedelic once in your life, because I think there is something unique about having your normal conscious experience knocked around. Because I think when you just have the plain chronological thinking, it is often to fall susceptible to a lot of these superstitions, because we view consciousness as this pure type of mechanism that comes from up high, when it's really just this down and dirty mechanism by which we are able to collect energy, get rid of it, and sometimes mate. And it is amazing. It's one of the coolest chemical reactions, just like life is. And so it's all of those. It's both amazing, and we should use drugs responsibly, and still no evidence for the supernatural.
And only combine drugs with mating responsibly.
Yes, that's it.
Dow, before try understanding where you're coming from, and the one thing I have to ask is something that you said multiple times, and I kind of want to like touch on this before we have to move on to another person with their hand up. You kept saying that you kept saying that naturalistic, or you call it physicalistic or materialistic explanations, but naturalistic explanations are reductive, or you kept implying that these are reductive explanations. When they're not reductive, we're not reducing them down to those things. We're starting with those things because we have no evidence of anything else existing. Like we have to assume, like to get to the conclusions that you're talking about, we would have to assume the existence of these other things and then work from there. So we'd kind of be begging the question there. So we're not assuming, like, presupposing physicalism or naturalism or materialism. We're working with the physical world because that's what we have access to. And then we're deriving conclusions from that with the evidence we have. But you keep calling it reductive in nature. Why do you think naturalism is reductive?
Well, I think it's reductive because, like I said before, I'm an idealist, so I believe that it's mind over matter, not matter over mind. And
but why? But why?
Number one reason would be my psychedelic.
So vibes.
So,
yeah, no, I mean, if we're talking feelings, but here's the whole thing. Do you believe that an external reality exists independent of your mind?
Personally, no. I believe everything emanates from mind. Mind is what creates everything.
Okay, so wait. So I think that JL and Amy and myself, we all start with the assumption that, like, hey, we assume that the objective world exists independent of minds, right? So it sounds like Daoji starts with a different set of assumptions that seems to involve more assumptions than us, which means that Occam's razor would be on whose side, Daoji? Could you just walk through why you think that we are making extra assumptions to you? Because you're just saying that you start with the assumption that idealism is correct. You start with that assumption. So it seems like you need to then assume consciousness is necessary for our universe. That's an extra assumption. You need to assume God exists. That's an extra assumption. You have a lot more assumptions than we do, don't you?
Right.
Well, outside of the thought experiment that I proposed, yes. Because you're delving into my personal experiences with psychedelics and my personal...
in your thought experiment to use Occam's razor as an argument against our position, but then now you recognize that outside of this niche thought experiment, when we're talking about comparing our actual holistic belief systems, then you are admitting that actually Occam's razor goes against you.
Yeah, when it comes to subjective personal interpretations of the nature of reality, then yes, science has less assumptions based on evidence.
But your Occam's razor. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but because I want to be specific so that you can talk to Grayson about it, because this is when he joined. Very specifically, he said there was a rational argument for God. It was cosmological in nature. Let's just assume there are two minds in the universe. One is unconscious, one's fully conscious. Which do you think would make a better creator of the universe? And of course, in that example, it's going to be a conscious agent, because conscious agents are the only creators that we know of. And so it is assuming that that would be the more likely thing, and thus Occam's razor goes to that conscious being. I think that has a number of flaws, but yes, that is what you're saying?
Well, yes. So within the confines of that particular thought experiment, with those assumptions, yes, it would make more sense that conscious forces gave rise to the existence of this ordered universe than unconscious forces, right?
Where's the universe that these minds are chilling in?
Well, see, that's going into the details. I'm just with thought experiments, you're not supposed to analyze what these minds are, whether they're biological. That doesn't matter. It's a thought experiment. That's what I was trying to explain to you at the beginning. It's a thought experiment. It's not hypothetical. You don't really need to delve in.
Ultimately, I think that when we drill down to it, I think Grayson and Amy nailed it on that. Is that when it comes down to worldviews, okay, what you're predicating your worldview upon and how many assumptions you're making that. Now, obviously, every worldview comes down to, one horn of the trilemma. We all have some, axiomatic presuppositions that we have, because obviously there's no solution for hard solipsism, and our interface with reality is our subjective internal experience. Truth claims that we make or statements we make about what we perceive to be external reality are going to be probabilistic in nature. So there are some fundamental assumptions that we all make. The point is to make as few assumptions as possible, and your worldview seems to be making a hell of a lot more than ours do. Once we take the entire worldview into account, not just like Grayson said, a niche thought experiment with very, very controlled aspects, that govern this. I don't know why you're. I don't know what the reasoning is why you're a metaphysical idealist. I don't know. I think the evidence goes against, pretty much any of that, and the sense that there's like things beyond this reality that you could never confirm is actually true. It may be more vibes that you like. You like the vibe of that, or maybe it makes you feel more special than naturalistic reality does. I don't know. These are things that you would need to sort out on your own. But I don't see any kind of like rational reason to believe here. There's no like rationalization. There's no argumentation. Yeah, I was expecting like the modal ontological argument, which is a logically deductive argument, but at best it gets you to like deism or maybe even simulation hypothesis. It doesn't get you to any one particular god, like of a faith. So, or you argue for kind of panentheism in that respect, but collective consciousness is not something like universal consciousness, not a thing we can demonstrate. Consciousness does have limitations. So, and plus there are explanatory and predictive models regarding the correlative and causative relationship between physical material and what we call consciousness. The sum total of mental phenomena. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that you're leaving out for the sake of protecting how your worldview makes you feel. But that's the thing that you kind of have to deal with on your own. But in that respect, I just don't see a rational reason to conclude any of it because the evidence and the explanatory and predictive models pretty much, push them aside. It's like, it's just reality in and of itself. And it's the most parsimonious.
Yeah, so you mentioned the simulation hypothesis. So I wanted to ask you a question. Do you guys believe that space and time are fundamental to the nature of reality?
Okay, so that's a weird question. So space-time, okay, so reality is basically what we are perceiving. And are they fundamental to the universe? No. Are they fundamental to matter existing? Probably. As far as we understand it, this is the only state of the universe that we have access to and that we can understand. So it seems to be that the emergence of space-time is one of the things that allows for the emergence of matter, for energy to transpose into matter. So maybe. But I hold existence to be a brute fact. Okay, existence is existence. Existence just is, and it always has been and always will be. So the universe exists. It just exists in different states. So that's what I hold because that's as far back as we can get. I just hold it to be a brute fact. Okay. Because the reason I'm asking that is because you say you can only go off with what we can measure and observe, right? So in physics, what we have access to. We don't assume that things exist that we don't have access to. Because if we assume that they exist and we don't have access to them, then why are we assuming they exist? In order to support our intuitions about a thing or our feelings about a thing? That doesn't tell us anything about reality. Okay, so I can pose a different argument according to that. So going based off of what we can observe. So in physics, they found out that the foundational building blocks of our three-dimensional space-time reality, which are atoms, right, that they are composed of 99.99% empty space, which means
bullshit.
Get him, Grayson.
Yeah, I'm just saying this is another common misunderstanding that the public seems to have, but the fact that when particles interact, they interact in a point-like way doesn't mean that you should think about an electron cloud as the electron is only ever occupying one point area at one time. The electron is delocalized and spread out over that entire area. So you can't just say, oh, it's all empty space, even though the electron cloud is occupying a large amount of space. So it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of wave particle duality and the nature of what a wave function is.
Sure. Then you have the observer effect in quantum mechanics, where it requires a conscious observer.
No, it doesn't. That's another common misunderstanding. But I can show you plenty of studies that have shown the collapse of the wave function without any conscious entity necessary. Like it only requires a measurement, and you cannot conflate the act of measurement with necessitating a consciousness to be the measurer. You can just have a measuring device, a machine with no consciousness at all, that can collapse the wave function in the same way that any other measurement can. It's measurement, not consciousness.
Yeah, just particles interacting with one another. Anything, as long as there's something to interact with, then I mean, that's your observer. So it's like literally, if you have one particle and that particle interacts with something else, because of the interaction itself fundamentally changes what the particle is doing when those two interact. That's just effectively your observer effect. It's whatever it's interacting with. It doesn't have to be a mind or a conscious mind. This is descending into woo stuff, and I feel like we are running like a heat-seeking missile towards the magic of the pineal gland.
Okay, then what about quantum entanglement?
What about quantum entanglement?
Where two quantum particles, they could be separated by thousands or millions of miles. One of them, collapses, and the other one collapses in exactly the same way.
Okay, so just FYI, like in quantum physics, wave collapse is not an actual process that's happening like in our reality. Like it's not a physical process going on, this wave function collapse. What wave function collapse is like an update in our knowledge about the system. So a quantum entanglement are when two or more particles are described by the same wave function, right? The equation describing them is the same. And then once one particle is interacted with, then suddenly, then we update our equation, and now we have two wave functions. Okay, and they described the two particles separately. That's all it is an update in our knowledge about the system. Like there is a quantum correlation that is stronger than a classical correlation between these two. Like there are non-local effects, but that doesn't mean I think what you're trying to imply that it means. And I don't even know what you're trying to imply that it means. Something that reality is not physical or something. All it is showing is that reality is non-local in some degree.
Yeah, to me, all of these phenomena would imply that reality is simulated, that it's virtual, that it's being computed by something. And I don't think this is the base reality. If there is a base reality, whatever that base reality is, that is what is computing this reality. That's my assumption, based on all this weird phenomena that you see in quantum mechanics and various other.
I mean, I don't know if you necessarily have to assume that. Like, there's plenty of physicists that will try to make the claims that reality is fundamentally non-computational, like Roger Penrose, for example. But I don't really go that far with it. I mean, I still kind of feel like it's probably computational, but and I can agree with you that there probably is some fundamental reality where the more fundamental physics is going on, and that physics might even be non-local and independent of space and distance. But again, that doesn't mean it's not physical. It doesn't get you any closer to idealism or the existence of God or anything. Most of the physicists that are proposing the very ideas that you're bringing up here about fundamental natures of reality, being without space or distance and all this stuff, are proposing it in a completely physicalist sense.
Well, there are certain philosophers and physicists that come up with TOEs, theories of everything, which happen to be more metaphysical. So they go beyond what's perceived as physical, like space and time, to describe the nature of reality. And one of these models was by a man named Thomas Campbell. I'm not sure if you know him. He came up with his My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. And his explanation is that we essentially live in a computed reality, but the thing that is computing reality is consciousness. It's consciousness itself. He calls it the larger consciousness system. And this reality is one of many virtual realities that's been computed by this larger consciousness system. And I'm watching his videos and reading his books, and he was one of the people that were doing the gateway experiments with Robert Monroe. and he himself has had many out of body experiences and stuff like that. And
Well,
his whole theory it pretty much threads all the world's religions, in that he describes this reality as an entropy reduction trainer. Entropy being the study of disorder, and the whole point of this simulated reality is so that conscious beings such as us reduce our entropy. And,
Wait, conscious beings produce some of the highest amounts of entropy of any process on the earth. like living things in general are some of the most efficient at producing huge amounts of entropy. Like, that's what we do really, really well on Earth here.
so Dow,
Yes, so-
I gotta say, we've kind of gone. I feel like it's kind of gone off the rails a little bit. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that doesn't track as far as the evidence goes, and I think it may require a bit more. I don't know. As far as position, I'm not convinced that any kind of a God exists. I don't think that you have rational justification for it. I think that that what you're holding to, you hold to because you like the vibe of it. You like how it makes you feel. You like the sense of being special in the universe and not just being a product of the system. That there's things beyond this lowly existence that you perceive that we have, like this finite meat suit that you're in. I get that these are concepts that you may dig, that may give you some sense of greater purpose or feeling, but the whole idea is that if you believe in them, why do you believe in them? Is that belief rationally justified? Exploring those kinds of things. And so far, there's been a lot of woo here. Woo that I've debunked on my channel, woo that I've seen Grayson debunk and Amy debunk. It's just a lot of stuff that's not based in reality. So, but I'm not seeing any kind of rational justification here. But as far as the conversation goes, I don't think we can really take it any further without nitpickingly debunking every single little claim that comes along, because everything you've cited so far, we're pretty much knocking him down. But maybe if you get some more stuff on that, we can get you up next time. But I do have other people who've got their hands up. We'll make sure that we're rotating people in. But I think it's a good place to kind of table it for now. What do you think, buddy? Are we good?
Yeah, I mean, I tried my best to rationally justify my explanations. But yeah, for me, it just makes the most sense that mind precedes matter, not the other way around.
But you do understand
just
you're making more fundamental assumptions than we are, right?
I would disagree with that. I think you guys are much more on the bottom-up evolution side. I'm more on the top-down creation side. So we both make assumptions, but we have to start from somewhere, right? You can't really make an argument if you don't have assumptions.
Well, I only asked you if you understand that where you're operating from is less parsimonious than ours. Occam's razor is not on your side on this one.
Within the confines of the thought experiment, I would say it is. But outside of it, if you're talking about my personal reasons for believing in a God, then yes, I would agree.
Okay.
Do you think it's all worrying to you at all that every time you tried to justify your beliefs with any kind of allusion towards any science or fact that you were kind of thinking that we could all agree on, and maybe you don't think that you are misunderstanding things, and maybe you think that we're incorrect, but is it raising any kind of red flags that every time you try to bring up quantum physics or things about universe or philosophy, it was there was something that we all think that you were missing, that that you just were not aware of to your argument? Is that not a red flag to you at all?
I don't understand.
You were saying things consciousness is necessary for quantum physics, but that's not true. And there were just numerous, it seems over and over and over again, that just kept happening, where you were saying a thing that was then fact checked false,
Yeah, so you mentioned the observer effect and how it's people misunderstand it, and then there was another thing about quantum entanglement, how people misunderstand it, and that you have the correct sources and etc. etc. And you're also making assumptions there. You're making assumptions that people are misunderstanding these phenomena, and that your assumption is correct while other people's assumptions are wrong.
Dow. He's not assuming it. There are explanatory and predictive models that back up these conclusions. That's what Grayson's referencing.
Yeah, I've also like read the studies directly just stating point blank contradictory statements to the things that you're saying from quantum physicists. I have taken 2 semesters of quantum mechanics myself. Like, I mean, I don't understand. Like, it's just crazy to me that at this point, like you, who, I mean, we all agree that you don't have an education in this, like, and then you're trying to like say, like, you're trying to dig down into your own misunderstandings and say, actually, everybody else is just assuming I'm wrong.
Well, isn't it possible that you're doing the same thing?
I mean, do you think that this is a good argument to be making? Like, yeah, sure, I could be wrong about everything, and I could be a brain in a vat. Like, I'm sure, but like at the end of the day, I have a lot more reasons to think that I am correct in my understanding, given that I've actually taken the class, read the textbook, stay up to date with these studies. This one I'm citing to you right now is Proietti et al. From 2019. I can send you this paper. You could read it yourself, but I doubt that you will. It's like, I have lots of reasons to think that I'm correct about this because I've done the necessary legwork to justify my knowledge in this area. You haven't, but yet you still seem to have that same like feeling that you're correct. And I just don't know why you think that you're so correct about this when you don't have good reasons to believe that.
Well, I would argue back that you're using the argument of authority, that you have a degree in so and so such subject, and
okay,
therefore,
but would you agree that PhD quantum physicists are experts in quantum physics?
yes.
So then,
And,
if you would agree to that, then it's not an appeal to authority fallacy that I am citing PhD quantum physicists who are saying in their paper, point blank, the things that I am telling you about that consciousness is not necessary and it's a measurement that is what's necessary. Like, I could show you the paper if you don't believe me. I'd be happy to. And then I don't know if you're just going to not believe your own eyes when you read the paper, or you're just going to say, oh, well, these quantum physicists are just appealing to authority. Like, you recognized that they are experts and would be the authority in this field. And now when the authorities tell you something that you disagree with, now all of a sudden you're going to discredit them too?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in the sense when people make arguments and they assume that because they've have a PhD in a particular subject.
He's not assuming it. He's not assuming the individual. He's not assuming it. The individual does have one. The individual has done the work. He's referencing an expert in the field. When you were referencing or citing an expert in a given field, that's not an appeal to authority figure. That's not an appeal to authority fallacy. It's like celebrity endorsements would be like an appeal to authority. It would be that kind of a fallacy, but not when you're referencing an actual expert in the field. Like if I was talking about evolution and I cited an evolutionary biologist with a PhD in evolutionary biology, that's not an appeal to authority fallacy. That's the whole point. Like you miscited that. That's you called it something that it wasn't.
Well, yeah, it's fine.
I cited the study in the chat, and Taco also cited literally just the Wikipedia page for the observer effect that clearly says the need for an observer to be conscious is not supported by the scientific research and has been pointed out as a misconception rooted in a poor understanding of quantum wave functions. Like exactly what I was telling you. And I haven't even looked at this Wikipedia page. Like every source of information that we can find from any relevant source that comes from anyone with any direct scientific experience in this field is telling you some like the opposite of what you're saying. But yet you keep digging down deeper and just doubting the like expertise of literally everyone.
Well, Doge, can I also ask, because you kind of just said this offhand, but you said we're leaning more on the evolution side, and I guess I'm just going to lean more on the creationist side. But I guess that would be one of my strong planks for why we know that we don't need consciousness? Because I guess my first question would just be, do you believe in evolution? And if so, what consciousness was involved before animals? Like, what other consciousness was there? Or what, besides this floating consciousness that I guess you're proposing?
Okay, if you're asking for my personal, let's say, interpretation of how this physical matter reality came about, it would be that, because I'm an idealist, I believe that it's mind precedes, right? So
Can I just
here's my-
interrupt you for a second? Because you're going into idealist. Do you accept evolution?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you accept evolution. And so before there was multicellular life, before there were fungi and plants and animals, can you agree with me that besides your conscious being, there doesn't seem to be any other conscious being?
Yeah, so for me, bottom-up evolution and top-down creation don't contradict each other. For me, it's more so that this physical matter reality was computed, simulated by a top-down creator who then developed an algorithmic structure for a bottom-up type of evolution for the evolution of biological life forms.
Okay, but why did they make this type of universe? And it has, I mean, we could do a million type of philosophy problems and moral problems. It just decided to simulate a universe that looks like it was naturally made.
Well, I subscribe to Tom Campbell's theory of everything because it makes the most sense. For him, it's just he calls it an entropy reduction trainer, right? So he, in his model, there is this larger consciousness system, which is, it's not physical, it's immaterial, it's metaphysical, right? It's beyond space and time. And it creates virtual realities such as ours. And what
Can I pause you? Because this type of consciousness annoys the crap out of me. It's a plot device. It's there to exist for us. That's all it does. That's not what consciousness is. Consciousness is this chronological moving through space and time so that we can do things that have causes and effects.
Yeah, his model, he defines consciousness simply as awareness with a choice. So suppose you have option A and option B, and you have an awareness that can either choose to be A or B.
So it had choices?
It seems like an awful lot to assume there. Like whenever I examine my own consciousness, it just seems to be awareness, period. Not awareness with anything extra.
Yeah, I would say it's actually dozens and dozens because it's an amalgamation, an emergence of all of these types of sensory data, more than just our six senses. We have actually a dozen of them. But my point is, we have consciousness seemingly for a very evolutionary reason. There's a good reason. Like, it doesn't just exist so we can go, oh, it's such a cool thing. No, we need it to exist because unlike plants who could create sugar and photosynthesize on their own, we were the other niches within multicellular life. Plants put their acid onto the object that they're breaking down. We are the opposite of that. We, as conscious beings, put food into our mouths. I don't understand. Again, this whole being a consciousness just so we could generate a universe that, from all practical examples, is very unconscious. Just is making and forming stars billions of years in darkness, and then eventually, slowly building up life. Life doesn't seem to care about consciousness right away. And then eventually, we have consciousness. And I just don't get why we need to put so much weight on this. I hate to use this word. If you don't want to use plot device, this mechanism, because that doesn't seem to be why consciousness is here in this natural world. So it's just this very, very strange consciousness that I don't understand how or what it's doing. Is it still around? I mean, I just said a lot there, but Is it still there, having conscious decisions? Is it still having awareness and choices?
Yes, so I think we come from different assumptions. So you're more on the bottom-up evolution side.
I am.
biology, and for me, I'm more primarily on the top-down creation. But
Why?
For me, that doesn't contradict, because I think top-down creation created a bottom-up evolution system.
So
which
yeah,
is
Dow.
reality.
I'd like to get to the heart of this. I really would. What
But, like,
about
why?
what about this top-down creationist thing? Why would you like personally, what would it okay, let me see if I can phrase this the right way. What do you think is logically entailed by a world where none of this stuff, where reality is human beings are just products of the system, and when we die, that's it? What do you think is logically entailed by that? That you seem to have an issue with?
Could you rephrase the question?
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
like
understand.
if the universe is entirely naturalistic, the supernatural does not exist. You know, these outside states, they're not referencing anything. It's all just, you know, stuff going on in your head. And when you die, the universe spins on, indifferent to your non-existence. That's it. So that's a logically possible scenario.
Are you asking him is there anything wrong with a physicalist universe other than he just doesn't like it?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what about that do you see as problematic?
What I see as problematic is that which comes, that there's a quotation that I'm trying to think of.
Search your feelings. Search your feelings. Yeah. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. Come on. So, what is it that you find problematic with a physicalist or a naturalistic presentation of the universe?
Is that it's finite. That it begins and it ends.
How is that problematic?
The universe can also be infinite. It's not like it has to be finite.
Yeah, the universe could be infinite. It could just change states. There could literally be states of the universe in which life is possible and states of the universe where life is not possible. And it just goes through transitory states. So,
in fact, I would actually argue that our current best empirical evidence seems to suggest that the universe is infinite, at least spatially, because we look around and it seems spatially flat, which would be evidence in line with an infinite universe.
So what is problematic with it? What do you find problematic with this, Dow? What is problematic about a naturalistic presentation of the universe? Is it because life is not special in this model? Humans are not intended? Is that where you're running into an issue?
Well, that's more of a moral interpretation. For me, it just the beginning thought experiment that I made. It just doesn't make sense that all this cosmic order could be brought about by completely unconscious random forces.
So it's an argument from incredulity, is what it is. Because number one, you're using random wrong. It's not random. Okay, it's if things are in motion in a particular way, then things will happen in a particular way. Okay, we don't know enough about states prior to the origin point of observability that we kind of tongue-in-cheek call the Big Bang. So we do a lot of speculation about it, a lot of hypothetical speculation about those based upon what we have access to on this side of observability, but we can't make absolute statements or even really, really strong definitive statements about prior states that we simply don't have access to. Okay, that's why it's all mathematical models. All right, now. Go ahead, Grayson. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask him does he think that the universe is under an obligation to make sense to him? Does he think that that your mind, that our minds specifically as human minds should be able to make sense about everything of the universe? And if we can't, then basically, why do you think that we should be able to make sense of it all?
He's bringing out the Neil deGrasse.
Because that just seems like an extra assumption, right? Like, I do not make the assumption that I assume that the human mind should be capable of understanding every aspect about our universe.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like you make that argument whenever you're talking about like God or understanding God or anything. So then why do you make the argument now that what the thing that's wrong with physicalism is that it doesn't make sense to you or to your mind particularly?
Because I think the human sense organs are fallible, they're limited, they're finite, and they're not fully reliable, which is why science tends to delve outside of human senses.
No,
Through
it actually doesn't. What it does is it scientists develop tools that allow we still utilize tools using our senses, our sense of sight, our sense of taste, our sense of touch, sense of smell, all of our other senses. We have more than 5, but these are just extensions of our senses. We still need to be able to interact with reality. Okay, we just our physical eyes can't see as far, so we develop tools that allow our eyes to see farther. We can't hear above or below certain wavelengths of sound, so we develop tools that allow us to do that. We can't see in certain spectrums, but we develop tools that allow us to do that. So these are just extensions that just further broaden our sensory experience. Okay, and so that's all science is doing. And the effort of science is to try and find the best possible explanation for any given phenomenon, given the evidence that we have access to. That's what science does. It's a tool. It's a methodology. Okay, so it doesn't make it works on the scientific process in that respect. So we're still kind of getting off because I'd like to move on to another person who has their hand up, because we got some people in the side chat who've been kind of like talking stuff, and I'd love to talk to them about that. But ultimately, there's no logical contradiction in this world being of naturalistic, of being the result of naturalistic processes, unguided naturalistic processes. There's no logical contradiction there. The only thing that would be entailed, like you could say is logically entailed by that, is that life itself is not intended to exist. That we are not meant to be here. We are products of the system because of the prior conditions that facilitated the emergence of life as we currently understand it on this planet. Okay? That just means that there's no grand purpose for you. There's no grand intention for your existence. You exist. But all that does is it puts the onus for your existence on you. What you're going to do with it. How are you going to spend your existence? The onus, the responsibility for that is solely upon you, not on anything else. Okay? Because one of the big issues that I have with this mode of thinking is that if there is a creator who intended for you to exist, then ultimately the onus for your existence is on that creator, because it's the one that decided to make you. And that the choices that you make within the realm of your existence are to a degree yours, but ultimately you're not responsible for your own existence. The creator is, because it decided to make you. And that alleviates some of the responsibility that people have. That when people believe this, it alleviates some of the responsibility they have for their own personal lives. Because ultimately they can chalk it up to God works in mysterious ways, or God will never give you any more than you can handle, or any other number of platitudes that allow you to eschew responsibility for being a member of a species on this planet. And recognizing that your actions and your inactions affect others around you. Okay? The weight of that responsibility can be crushing. I understand it. And it almost seems, almost antithetical, given that when you die, that's it. As far as the evidence indicates, that's all. So I understand the need to try and derive more from it, because the universe is not really giving you that much. And there's no expectation that it should. So I get the need to do it, but it leads to some fairly irrational places, like thinking like the pineal gland is magical and that DMT is a gateway to other dimensions, which is deeply problematic. Okay. So I think at this point, we have a good place where we can kind of like, we can table this and move on to somebody else who has their hand up. I see John Mayos has his hand up. I appreciate you coming up, Dow. We just want to cycle through as many guests as we can. But I appreciate you coming up, bud. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good to go. So I see John's got his hand up. Now, John's been up before. He's a good friend of the channel, but I see Spasticus has been talking a lot of smack. You know, atheist virtue signaling. Whatever, dude. Oh, Spasticus. Yeah, come on. So Spasticus got his hand up? Let's bring up Spasticus. I haven't had Spasticus up here.
And that's kind of how a debate works. It's not virtue signaling. We are trying to tell you with voice communication.
So Spasticus, what do you got for us?
Okay, parsimony.
Yes, not multiplying your
claiming
entity.
that parsimony is the least assumptions is the correct answer.
Not multiplying your entities unnecessarily.
Okay. Wouldn't that make solipsism like the most parsimonious position?
Well, no, because you still have to assume that there is a mind doing the projecting. That you have to assume that what mind is that? Is that your mind is the mind of something else? The only assumption that I did, like the assumption that I start with, is that an experience is being had. Well, no, actually, that's confirmed. The first assumption that I make in my worldview is that it is I who has had like the sense of self. It is I who is having an experience, because even the I in the cogito is presupposed. Okay, all I Nietzsche's critique of Descartes in that respect. So an experience is being had. The question is, who is having the experience? I perceive that it is I having the experience via the sense of self. So therefore, I presuppose that it is that the I is me, and not being projected by something else. I presume that I am by that sense of self. I presume that I am an entity that there are other entities external of it that are not myself. Okay, by the law of identity. But I can't eliminate the possibility that my sense of self could be a dream of something else, or I could be a brain in a vat. So hard solipsism, there's no solution for it yet, you know, until maybe one day we could solve it. But there doesn't seem to be a solution yet. But you'd have to be making a number of other assumptions, you know. So I would say start with one. There's an experience being had. Or no, you start with one confirmation. An experience is being had. Start with the first assumption. It is you that is having it, and then you move forward from there. And try to limit the assumptions that you make. You don't presuppose naturalism. Don't presuppose these things. Look at the evidence of what you have access to. Don't assume that things exist that you don't have access to in order to, validate your feelings in that respect. Just move forward with that. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but do you not think that there's some value in other ways of thinking?
There may be utility, exploring. There's always utility in thought experimentation. But there's a difference between a thing having utility for the purposes of thought experimentation and believing things that are true simply because if they were true, it validates your feelings and they don't represent reality. There's no utility in that, because now you're getting into my feelings are more real than the real world itself, which is deeply problematic.
So I have a question about because I am actually a little bit sympathetic to the idea that solipsism, I'm open to the idea that solipsism is the most parsimonious worldview. I haven't really thought about that, but I'm open to that idea. I'm not a solipsist, obviously, but I'm just curious about to me, it seems like the whole notion of intersubjective consistency, right? It kind of seems like, again, you just have to, I guess, assume that there's minds and stuff, but it just seems like a very strange construction of the world to if I am trying to put myself in the shoes of a solipsist and I'm thinking that there's no other minds other than my own or whatever, but then I'm interacting with these other entities, these other, I guess you could interact with dream characters in a dream and everything, but they always, there's something off about them, right? It always the logic in a dream doesn't add up. The interaction with the dream characters are off, and it's whenever I interact with the world around me, seems everybody's. It just seems like I would have to make. I don't know. It just seems like it would be really, really weird if I'm the one constructing all this reality when there's so much around me that seems to be happening without my involvement at all, or it just seems to be happening independent of me. It's like my brain is going through a lot of effort to trick me right now if objective reality doesn't exist. And it just seems to me like I would just have to like assume a whole lot about the nature of my mind, not just like assuming the nature of reality. Like I'd have to assume that my mind is trying to trick me to believing that other minds exist. Like, and does that not count as another assumption? I don't know if what I was just saying makes, I don't know if what I'm saying makes much sense. This is my first time trying to articulate this line of reasoning, but they're just like, it seems to me that I would have to assume a lot about like the nature of my mind in a solipsistic world, basically.
Yeah, I don't think it's the assumptions that you make; it's the entities that you're assuming.
Well, that's what you don't multiply your entities unnecessarily. That's just don't make any more assumptions than is necessary. The more assumptions you have to make, that becomes more problematic. For a position to be true requires a number of assumptions. If you continuously have to assume more and more things to justify that particular that proposition that you're holding to, then it becomes problematic. So you try to reduce the number of things that you have to assume, right?
Like,
so like
it
assuming
seems
these.
to me like,
Go ahead. Yeah.
sorry. I was just saying, it's if I was trying to summarize this quickly, it seems to me that I either have to assume that other minds exist independent of my own, or I have to assume that my mind is trying to convince me of that. It seems like either way, I have to make some sort of assumption to explain the reality as I'm perceiving it, the experiences that are happening to me. But like, it seems like I either have to assume something about my mind or I have to assume something about a reality. But like, it seems like the number of assumptions are similar, no?
I think they'd be similar in all cases, regardless of your position.
But can I tell you how it's different? Because with solipsism, it would mean that we are creating every work of art, every amazing scientific discovery, all of this when we have no direct experience of it. And so I am also open to solipsism. I think that we cannot disprove it to 100% certainty. However, the universe at least appears as if it is not solipsistic. It appears just as if there are conscious agents working within this framework. I'll continue to say that if anyone can red pill us or give us some way to get out of the system or show that we are all actually this one. I mean, that would truly be a collective unconscious if we are all the one person and we just don't know it. However, it appears that when I want something that, is made technologically, I'm going to go to an engineer. When I want something that, is crafted with wood, I'm going to go to a carpenter, because I don't have expertise with at least the hardware part of computers, and I don't know how to woodwork. So it would be very impressive if both those people are me.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way before.
What's that?
I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I would be all on board. I don't think we can disprove it. However, I feel like for us to actually believe it, I feel like it would have to have a very high standard, at least as high a standard as anything else that we accept in science.
Yeah, when it comes to things like solipsism and stuff, I pretty much just relegate it to Alder's razor. There's really no point. It can't be settled by observation or experiment. It's an unfalsifiable concept, just like naturalistic deism, or like deism, or like classical deism or naturalistic deism. It's just there's no way to tell if it's true or false. And unfalsifiable concepts pretty much just get heaped onto the pile of unfalsifiable concepts until we have the capacity to quantify them and actually start determining truth values. So
you know what was super weird about our reality that doesn't make sense to me if solipsism is true? Why would I need to sleep at night? You know, why would my consciousness go away at like every night if my consciousness is what's creating the entire universe around me? It's like, so the entire universe around me stops existing every night. Like, I don't know. It's just a weird aspect of our reality that doesn't really make much sense to me at all. If idealism or consciousness is true, why do we sleep?
Could seem very wasteful.
The weird idea that the experience of my own birth is somewhere in my mind. The experience of giving birth to myself is somewhere in my mind is really, really odd.
Like, I know that like these are not actually defeaters for solipsism, because I agree with JL that like I don't think that any worldview has an actual defeater for solipsism, but like at the same time, like if you're a solipsist, you're just goofy, my guy.
So anything else,
Well,
Persphasticus? Or
I'm a neutral monist.
Okay,
So-
why?
Because I believe in a god, but not in the classical theism sense.
so
Okay,
do you
but
believe
why
in,
though?
do you believe in a god of a specific religion?
Not exactly.
So then
I'm kind
why?
of a Christian Gnostic.
Okay, so you believe in a creating entity is what you believe in.
Yeah,
Okay, do you believe? Okay, but you do you follow any one particular faith? Do you believe like Christ, was put on this earth and then died for your sins?
no. I
Okay,
believe that Christ was a messenger to set the record straight.
So then why do you believe what you believe?
right. So yeah, why do you believe this entity exists?
Personal experience of it.
By what mechanism?
Now, I
were
know what you
able-
guys are going to say.
No.
Could
Well,
be.
hang on, Spaz. By what mechanism were you able to differentiate between this entity actually existing and interacting with you and your confirmation bias?
Can we actually
by-
hear about what this personal experience was? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
By my feelings. That's it, JL. We've had this conversation.
so wait,
before,
what
you
was the
guys, and
personal
it comes back to
experience?
the same- In what sense?
Like, you said that you believe God is real because you've had personal experiences. Like, what is the nature of these personal experiences? Is it like a voice you're hearing in your head? Is it a feeling you're getting? Like, what experiences are you having that are indicative of a God to you? Because I'm clearly not having them.
Well, yeah, it's the experience of an entity. Not seen, not heard.
Like, what does that mean though? What does it mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out in my mind what would it be like to have this experience. So can you like try to paint a picture of what you were experiencing?
Well, it'd be like trying to explain to you what a dream is like.
But I can do that. I can explain to you what my dreams are like.
It's pretty easy.
Okay, so it's like becoming a consciousness.
I don't know what this means already, but like I'm already
That's what I mean. That's the problem.
But just like paint for me, like, were you sitting in your room? Were you watching TV? Like, did this just happen all of a sudden? Were you thinking about something? Like, what was this experience?
Yeah, it just happened. I'm sitting at home. Just happened.
And so
I'm
then
taken
you
away
got
from
got a feeling-
reality.
you got a feeling that there was just like this other entity that wasn't you, and it just it was a feeling.
Kind of, instilled information that I didn't have before it happened.
Oh, what was that information?
That we're not alone.
Wait. So you were
Wait,
you were sitting alone, and you had a sudden sense that we are not alone. That human beings are not alone. That there is something.
Exactly, yeah.
There's something greater out there. You had a sudden feeling of that, and then that was it.
No.
So
Well, yeah, no, and
no, yeah, but and so I mean, you did like the information that you get. Okay, that's not information that nobody else has. You can't. I mean, it's not like you could confirm that. So, like, what do you have other than like you got a vibe one day that there's something more? Humans have been vibing that stuff for different concepts, like since we've been able to write shit down. So what are you talking about?
Well, this is where we get to every time, JL. There's
Well,
nothing I say is ever sufficient for you.
Well,
Well,
because
can
I want you
Maybe
to,
that's
Oh, go,
because
go.
maybe that's just because the things that you're saying are just insufficient.
Well, yeah, they are.
Yeah, okay,
Spartacus,
Because it's an experience.
It's not just for JL. Like this should be insufficient for you as well. This should not be a
agree.
sufficient enough threshold for you to have formed the beliefs that you do.
I mean, do you
Well, it was.
do you believe does every vibe you get lead to a belief in something?
No.
So why would this one lead to a belief?
Because it was extremely powerful.
Powerful in relationship to what? If you talk about powerful, it's just emotional.
Yeah, well, it's sort of transcendent. Like,
Transcendent doesn't mean anything.
What's it
you're
called?
just saying it was emotional. Trying to
I-
use
also-
words, trying to use bigger words in order to convey when you talk, oh, it was a spiritual experience. No, what you mean is it was profoundly emotional. That's what you mean.
I just
Okay.
want to ask:
Okay, profoundly
sober?
emotional.
Were you
Yeah,
sober at this time?
totally. Yeah.
And so you were just like chilling alone, minding your own business, and then you just got struck by this intense feeling that you were not alone.
Yeah, and then taken away from as it existed to a place that's yeah, it's kind of indescribable. I don't want to say the light because it sounds too cliched. But yeah, that's really what it is.
It kind of sounds like you had a stroke, my guy.
I was about to say like
Yeah.
a trans
maybe I did.
like a trans ischemic attack, but how do you know you didn't just doze off and have like a mid-level dream?
Because it's really different to any experience that I've had before that's of those natures.
Yeah, you
And
could
I've done
you
plenty of
literally could have
hallucinogenic
dozed
drugs.
off. You literally could have dozed off, had a mid-level dream and mid-level
Yeah,
lucid dream.
I literally could. So now we've explained it away.
Well, no, we haven't explained
Now
the way.
what?
We're saying that without multiplying our entities unnecessarily, we're coming to the most parsimonious conclusion given the evidence that we have access to.
No, that was the previous conversation. I'm not talking about parsimony.
Well, Spartacus, can I just go over real quick? You said it was a feeling that you had not seen and not heard. Right away, that to me says, okay, you're having it inside your brain, our thoughts, I would say. But you said you became conscious. That's kind of when Grayson kind of basically said, well, what the heck do you mean? Because I would also like to know the same thing. I don't know what became conscious because you then said by that you were taken from reality. And once you were taken from reality, you met this other being that instilled information. The only information that you told JL or Grayson was that we are not alone. Now, when you say this, and this is crucial because this is the only claim that you've actually said, is that these beings told you we're not alone. From our vantage point, you have told yourself that we are not alone. How can we decipher? You said that, both JL and Grayson kind of poo-pooed you away, but I think they were doing the right thing, is they were trying to say, well, okay, you had that experience. How can we verify that experience happened too? How can we truly know that we are not alone and that there wasn't a million neurological, environmental, a million other naturalistic reasons before we get to truly there was another agent trying to communicate this message? How are the skeptics supposed to be convinced?
Well, then, am I trying to convince you?
I believe so. I think that's actually the point of the show.
Oh, is it?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, why do you believe this thing? If you believe in it for completely unjustified reasons, then we have to ask, why do you believe in it? If you believe in it because it makes you feel good, then just cop to that. I have no problem with that.
Like,
Go
I
ahead.
have a question real quick about like, what if I have a feeling like, say I'm clinically depressed and I'm sitting alone in my room and all of a sudden I get a really intense feeling that comes over to me that's just like, you're all alone. And it's just a super intense feeling that we're all alone in this universe. So I have a really intense feeling that's contradictory to your really intense feeling. How do we determine which one is true?
You can't. What? I don't understand why you guys. I mean, I'm not out there trying to. I'm not.
You don't
I'm not
understand
knocking on
why we
doors.
would be
I'm
concerned
not
about
making.
what
I'm
is
not making
true.
claims for. Hang on, I'm speaking. I'm not making claims for moral superiority, access to something that you guys don't have. Not saying you're all going to hell when you die.
I know, but what
I
I'm
mean,
what I'm
I
what I'm
made it.
expressing incredulity about is that you don't seem to understand why we would be concerned about what is true. I mean, is that not like? Isn't that a very reasonable thing to be like curious and concerned about what is the true ontology of the reality that we live in?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but that's a different conversation.
Well,
The
no,
only
so
reason I'm up here is because hang on. The reason I'm
Okay.
here is because I made a comment about parsimony when JL said about multiplying your entities, thinking, well, does that make solipsism the most parsimonious position? Yeah, so come on, say something.
And I don't think
So
that
that's it.
I don't think that
And
it
then
does. So.
now I'm getting a cross examiner about something that
Okay,
I
well,
believe. I'm not trying to force it on you.
Well, yeah, no, but Spasticus.
At no point did I say
No.
you can determine whether it's
No, but Spasticus, the whole point of the stage is if you want to interact and you came up on, the whole point of the stage is having these discussions, is diving into them and understanding what you believe and why you believe it. That's the purpose of the stage. You put your hand up, you were brought up, that's why we're engaging in this. If you didn't want to do this, or if you knew you couldn't defend it, then why would you put your hand up? Okay, you could have simply asked the question, what do you mean by this? And then we could have moved on to the next person. If you cop to the fact that your position is indefensible, that's fine. If you cop to the fact that you believe it because it makes you feel good about yourself, that's fine. But recognize those things. Now, to answer a deeper question that I think you have, given some stuff that you said in the side chat that I noticed, the reason I have these conversations, the reason I have these conversations is because I have seen in reality irrational beliefs have a great tendency to lend themselves to irrational behaviors, especially when in defense of those beliefs. Okay? We live in a world, as far as we can perceive and we can determine by the evidence, we live in a world with other agents, and our actions and our inactions affect other people directly and indirectly. Okay? I'm not operating in this world alone. My right to swing my fist ends at the other person's body, okay? There are other people around us. When people are running around believing irrational stuff, the depth of that irrationality will greatly inform the irrationality of their behaviors in this world. That's why I have these conversations. If you can cop to them being irrational, at least I will then know that you are being intellectually honest with yourself and that you recognize these things about the world and about yourself. All right? That's why I have these things. You have no idea how many people that I interact with, that Amy interacts with, that Grayson interacts with, where these concepts seem to be beyond the people that we talk to. That they legitimately believe these things to a point that they have convinced themselves they have the right to dictate how other people live because they are so convinced that they are right. That their methodology, that their moral frameworks, that their ideology is so correct that nothing else can be correct. Everything else is impossible. That therefore we all have to live under how they think we should live, which is just abject insanity. That's why I
couldn't agree with you more. Yeah,
that's why I have these conversations.
This, yeah.
Okay, so it's about being intellectually honest. It's about striving for truth, not the truth that makes you feel good, but what is actually true, regardless of your feelings.
Yeah, I spend as much time criticizing fellow believers, more so than I do atheists.
Well, Spasticus, the answers that you had to what I was asking earlier kind of sent red flags up for me about like making me question how interested you actually are in like what is true. Because in response to like what I gave about, oh, you have a feeling that this is true, somebody else could have literally the opposite feeling of being true. How do you determine what is true? And you said, well, like, why are you even concerned about this? And we all went on this whole tangent, but it's like, shouldn't we be preeminently concerned with how we can determine what is true versus not true when there's two contradictory truth claims? I mean, shouldn't that be what we're concerned about? You like in the comments, you were like, oh, why do you even spend all this time arguing about these subjects? But like, we've told you, because we're concerned about what is the true like nature of reality. Like, is that not a good enough answer to have these discussions? It's not like it's virtue signaling. Like, we're just trying to tease out these notions so we can figure out more about the world around us and what is true in it. Like, isn't that important? Shouldn't we care about how we can determine what is true versus not true?
That is important on it's a next level thing.
So, but like,
important
once you
thing
have a
is-
feeling, I'm just saying, once you have a feeling of what is true, and then you're no longer concerned about how you can compare your feeling to other people's feelings and determine if your feeling is true or not. Like, it just seems like you've had this feeling that now you are saying it's true. And it seems to me that you are no longer interested in testing its truth value. You feel like, oh, I've had this feeling, therefore that's true. And all this other stuff, that's just other people's truths. And I know my truth now. But it's like, are you actually interested in what is true?
Yeah, but what will happen is that while you're having this kind of thing, you're trying to move somebody from a position that most of them are certain about. You know how these conversations go with religious people. What I'm more interested in is how they act in the world. So rather than trying to argue with them about what's true and what's false, it's more a case of how do we live together? Because every religious person, Christians are going to not agree with Muslims. They're going to fight over that kind of stuff. So if you're just having conversations about who's right and wrong fundamentally about what's true, you're not going to even cover what's morally
Spartacus?
correct and what how we live together in the world. I think we should all be secular. Well, we should all be humanists.
Can I
Based on a
just point
secular
out,
basis.
because I think here's the good thing and the problem both at the same time is I think if you're coming here to say, listen, I'm the type of theist that accepts science and I accept atheists and I want a secular society and I'm not telling you how to live. I mean, you're not going to find, or I'm sure you can on the internet, but you're not going to find many atheist agnostics or skeptics that are going to hate that. It sounds like you're one of our allies and we're proud to have you on board. I guess where we're trying to drill is that the focus on the show, I guess, is to lean into where we disagree more. And so as much as we are always going to appreciate, and we would much rather break bread and drink a beer with you over any of these fundamentalists that, if they had their way, would probably, lock us up or do myriad of terrible things if they truly got what they actually wanted. Nonetheless, we think on a top level, there are reasons why people should not be theists, and why I would argue that although you should have the freedom to have your religion, and I think that most of us here would fight for your freedom of religion, that from our vantage point, it still is this outdated technology that humans used to use, that you can minimize the baggage of religion or the harmful effects of it, but we'd be better off without it. And so that's why we're focusing, I guess, especially in this discourse, more on what we disagree with, because I'm sure there's tons of lovely things about you that we would, and we're happy to share that secular society.
I'm also saying that I care about how people act. I care about whether people act in accords with what we can know is true about reality.
I cannot agree more. Amen. Because that is what we're arguing over is truth, is that we are saying ultimately we love you, but we do think top level there's no good reason to believe in a God, and if there was, we want good evidence.
Just go with Schellenberg's
Yeah.
argument.
So
Schellenberg's
we're
argument
kind of
from
in
divine
agreement.
hiddenness. The argument.
No,
from
Jay, I'll cut you off and say.
the argument from divine hiddenness pretty much just sums that up. If you haven't heard of that before, essentially, if you believe in a God and the God is all loving, then the argument from divine hiddenness is the rational justification for not believing such a thing exists. So,
Yeah, well, not the time to get into the nitty gritty, but yeah, I don't believe God is all. I think the opposite. I think any God that's going to trap us in a world full of suffering is not going to be omnibenevolent. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But that's just a Gnostic thing. Anyway, you guys get on with it. But yeah, it's never. The thing is, it's never because you can't disprove it. You can't prove God does not exist.
well, it depends on the God. Some God versions, because of how they're defined, we can demonstrate that they don't exist because they definitionally entail logical contradictions, and logical contradictions can't exist, so therefore that God cannot exist. So, but some gods are unfalsifiable. So some God concepts just can't be proven either way because it's logically possible that they could exist, but we can't demonstrate them to be the case. So, but we can't demonstrate that they're false either. So those are that's like classical deism or naturalistic theism. Simulation hypothesis, whatever you want to go with. These are unfalsifiable concepts. But the Christian Abrahamic biblical God, that God does not exist, just by virtue of how it is defined in mainstream Christianity.
Well, I kind of agree with you, yeah, but I'll leave you guys to it. You get a Christian on this stage and try and convince them of that, and they will not have it. Guarantee it.
Well, I've had a few that have been able to follow the argumentation, but you are right. The majority of them don't. They seem to run into a wall of cognitive dissonance there. But I've had a few understand what I've been trying to explain with that. But I appreciate you coming up, Spas. You're always welcome on the stage. I always like having new people up. So thank you very much, bud.
Okay.
I have a little like pet hypothesis about why rational arguments work on some Christians and not on others.
Huh, shoot.
Okay.
My idea is that basically for some people, their identity as a rational person supersedes their identity as a Christian. And for other people, their identity as a Christian comes before all other aspects of their how they see themselves. So like if you see yourself as primarily being like a rational, logical, like reasonable person first, then you would be more open to rational arguments and you could like change your Christian identity without altering your more privileged identity about who you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of these argumentations are kind of trying to merge what would otherwise be seen as absurd, and yet they are rational, logical people, and so they have to look to these apologetics as kind of like a branch between, what would be theology and miracles, and then the scientific world and reality. I'd say philosophy is kind of like somewhere in between because they can at least sound more sophisticated without saying, well, the guy who raised from the dead 3 days ago.
All right, we got Tom's takes. I actually like that, Grayson. I like the identity idea there. That seems to track a lot. I see Tom's takes has got his hand up, and while I'm pretty sure that Tom is not a Tom, are you a non-believer, atheist, or agnostic, or agnostic? Oh, sorry.
So I just wanted to kind of elaborate. I mean, Grayson almost hit it like right on the head. I think asking someone to give up their identity and what they grew up with, their social circles, their friends, sometimes even risking family relationships in order for the truth is very difficult. And for a lifelong atheist like myself, I think, thank goodness I didn't have to go through something like that, but I can definitely understand it because I've talked to enough people that, some people so heavily identify as being a Christian, as being a Muslim, that it's part of who they are. So now you're asking for them to kind of give up that element of themselves in order to accept that, their book could be wrong, or, the society they grew up in was very overbearing and you had to believe in this, whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think, asking people to, not believe something is one thing, switching from Newtonian physics to Einsteinian, physics wasn't as was still huge, but asking someone to give up their identity, I think, is a lot bigger on the individual basis. That's all I want to say.
Good
I
point.
also think it very much reflects in how much control a specific religion has on a community. And so if you are a Mormon, you have much deeper concerns than the truth, unfortunately. You have to think about, are my parents going to kick me out? Is my girlfriend or boyfriend going to leave me? Am I going to go to the community centers that I've been going to? How are people going to view me? And so there's unfortunately, as Grayson has pointed out, I would say is that yes, you have to have this as an identity. It is something about who you are. It's about who your larger community is. And it unfortunately oftentimes runs in friction with reality and truth. So you may have a lighter version of this where you're just lighting Christmas trees and, you just celebrate holidays on, and that's about it. But unfortunately, yeah, it oftentimes puts fact versus fiction.
As someone who lived in the Middle East for 8 years, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Being labeled an apostate within Islam in the moderate countries will bring shame upon you and your entire family for generations to come at best. And if you're in a country like Saudi Arabia or Iran, you have 3 days to recant and come back to Islam, or you will be publicly executed. So the social pressures of staying within the religion in some areas of the world are so extreme that it's literally it's a death penalty.
Yeah, I could not think there could be a better example, and yet there's an even more life-threatening real example.
Yeah, I was based in Dubai, and over there in Dubai, if you're labeled an apostate, like basically your great grandchildren will have shame upon them because their great granddaddy was an apostate. It's ridiculous, and that's in a very liberal, quote unquote, Muslim state. Like I said, you go to Saudi Arabia or Iran, good luck.
I mean, that's basically a billboard for anti-theism, because we often get asked, why do we do what we do? It's not because we dislike religious people. It's because, unfortunately, the fundamentalists, who are oftentimes in control of the governments, do horrible things based on 1,000-year-old religions that come with it. All of the terrible moral and otherwise baggage.
Right. So
I had an imam tell me to my face, and this was after being there for a bit and talking to people. I had an imam tell me to my face, Tom, we believe because we have to. And he didn't say anything more. I didn't push him. I was very respectful. Obviously, I'm in their countries. I don't want to cause myself any problems. But the way he looked at me, he wanted to say more, but it's like he'd be putting himself at risk if he did. And then when you take into account what the punishment is for being labeled an apostate, you can understand much better those words that he said to me.
Right. Well, I do appreciate it. But thank you for popping up, Tom. Because I have other people that want to come up on stage. I want to try and cycle through as best we can. But definitely appreciate the insight there on the identity thing. So thank you, Tom.
I just want to make the point, at least. I know of like a couple like Iranians that are like atheists, and like some of them have relatives in Iran that are atheists, and it's like seems to me that like it's really more of like a governmental thing, at least in Iran.
Absolutely.
Everybody in Iran is sort of pretending to be more religious than they are. Like even the people that are religious, like everyone is pretending to be a little bit more religious than they really are in that country. But like,
Wow.
Especially in like educated circles and like there's a lot of social circles that like there are atheists in Iran. It's not even that rare. Like there's a decent percentage of Iranians are atheists. It's just that they just cannot publicly say, I am an atheist in front of any government official, but like in their social circles, it's not like they're like socially ostracized. Like people are pretty chill and understanding. Like from what I understand, like just regular people in Iran, it's really more of like the government that's the one that will have the really bad repercussions for apostates.
Well, the reason that it's like that is because of their revolution there. Very specifically, they had a very secular country. There's pictures of, women in Tehran in 1970s wearing bikinis. And so there was, I hate to say this example, but there was the Muslim equivalent of a Handmaid's Tale there. There was a revolution. And so you have these leaders, these religious leaders, who have put, now what they do is they say, well, this is our culture and this is our tradition. Though what it really is they got taken over by these religious crazy people. And I assume most of the public probably just went with things because that's unfortunately what we do as a public. But they don't probably care. Tehran is Iran, Persia. I mean, they culturally are a very intellectually rich society. And I just want to point out that it might not be still, but there was a time in Saudi Arabia where the God Delusion was the #1 pirated book. And so I think there are brewings for hopefully not just reform, because Islam vastly needs reform, just like all religion vastly needs reform. And then I think eventually a good old dose of skepticism leading to atheism, leading to an anti-theism, leading to actual science. I don't know, that'd be cool. But
By
yeah.
the way, just the last thing I'll say on this before we move on to the next caller is I just remember seeing last month a new government survey from Iran, from their Ministry of Research Center for Culture, Art, and Communication, found that 73% of Iranians would prefer a secular government with a separation of religion and state, and that was had doubled since 2015. It's very popular among the people in the country. I don't think that culturally that there's I think in Saudi Arabia and Dubai and some of those Gulf states, you do sort of have this cultural element about hating atheism, but Iranians are pretty chill, in terms of culturally, by comparison to
They also view themselves as a minority religion. They are Shia Islam, and so Sunni Islam has this view and this take that they are leaders, and their view is to spread the religion, and they've kind of taken that mantle. As a minority religion, Shia within, Iran has been kind of just saying, let us live. Now, again, I'm hoping, I think it's brewing. All the information you're saying means I'm hoping, come on, Iran. We just need a second revolution.
Yeah. I mean, it'll happen eventually. There's no way that you can maintain such a minority theocracy for such a extended period of time. Eventually,
but I'm hoping
it's definitely going to happen. I am much more concerned about Sunni sectarianism, that you were describing there, especially in Syria now. Oh, bad news.
Right. All right. I see that Speedmaster has her hand up.
Hello. How are you guys and girls doing today?
Doing good, bud. Doing good.
Doing good.
I'm just immersed in my sin.
Ooh, nice. Yes, I love a bit of sinning myself, but then again, what is a sin these days?
Mm-hmm.
Just a question. Are you guys anti-theists? Yes or no?
I'm against theism. The label is anti-theist, but I would separate that out from me saying I'm against the person. I'm not against, and so I am an anti-theist as in I am against the religion, not against, again, the human being.
Mm-hmm. The reason I asked that question is because my main question was, don't you think religious institutions this day in 2025 still don't have a place in society?
Fortunately, but I think they are outdated technology. I think they are how we used to gain community, how we used to try and make predictions about the world and maybe even early science. But I would say that for the most part, they are mythical in nature. They are how we used to explain how the world came about. And any wisdom that we can gain from them are metaphorical in nature. So if we can learn from the Iliad, then we should be able to learn from the Bible, but we shouldn't have to accept that this was inspired by a god. It should be this was created by a man, inspired by a man, and any wisdom that we got from it came from a man, and that's okay.
Well,
It's
I'm
like,
asking. Sorry,
It's
go
like
first,
going
Gracie.
back in time to like if an ancient Sumerian came up to me and was just like, "Yeah, I know that you don't actually believe that my god lives in the temple in the center of my city and is the head of the government making all of the statewide decisions, but don't you accept that, it's kind of necessary that we have to have a temple for this god to run all of the government?" It's like, well, sure, yeah, because you've structured your entire society around the existence of fictitious entities. So yes, your society, in order for it to continue functioning in a normal way, must continue having these institutions that like you have constructed your society around. Like right now, we don't have a very good means of generating a sense of community in Western societies because for like hundreds of years, we generated our community through these religious institutions, and that's how we structured our societies around that. So yes, we would have to change the way that we structure our society to like better induce a sense of secular communities with people, but like we should align our societies with what we know is true about the world, not around fictitious entities.
The reason I would want to argue, and it just purely from a practical sense, not a believing stance, that actually I believe a church still has a value in society. I will give you one example that I can back up with a study that I will post later on, and one more anecdotal story, if you don't mind.
Sure, I just would be interested what they are.
Well, I'm gonna start off basically. There has been a study when it comes to drug recovery and actually inmates finding a religion, if it might be Islam or Christianity or another form of religion. There's a higher chance of them being a proper member of society without falling back into prison or back into crime.
Can I pause you
so
for a
that's okay.
second? Because
Yes.
we do get that a lot, but we kind of
Mhm.
have like an opposite joke in the opposite direction, which is if you ever want to find where God is, he's hiding in prison. Because culturally, there are many societies that are set up because they have theologically backed people who view these systems as moral. What you get is systems that go in and people who commit crimes and say, hey, I found God, I'm no longer a bad person, please let me out. And many times, especially in systems where you have religious people as judges or systems that are set to have a positive view on religion, is you get people who just profess religion so they can get out. Whether they actually believe it or not, who knows? I would say this panel would debate whether it makes them a better person or not, but it just seems to play into this new persona. That's great. I murdered someone, but I found Jesus, but I found Muhammad. Please let me out now.
The reason I would say it is I would like to back it up with studies. And the reason, Tom, was basically a study in the Journey for Scientific Study of Religion. Actually found that religious involvement helps reduce depression, anxiety, and hopelessness among prisoners. And there was also a study posted in the Justice Quarterly, and that's a little bit older, 2008, and was supported by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, which seems
Can I
that inmates
stop you
participate-
again? Because
I'm
let's
almost done.
okay, continue.
Yeah, I'm almost done. No worries. That faith-based programs were less likely that the reoffenders would appear after release. That was the last sentence.
Okay, and I can appreciate that, but can you take, some of these qualities like anxiety and hopelessness? Sure, I can imagine when you start to believe in some of these religions, those go down. However, I would say those are for unhealthy reasons, because from our vantage point, it lowers anxiety and hopelessness by either lying to them or being wrong about the facts of nature, and thus their anxiety goes down. You say, listen, I know this life sucks, But once you're dead, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And you go, look, everyone's anxiety is going down. Yes, because we created a myth in which people go on to live forever if they adhere to these rules. I agree, that's going to bring anxiety and hopelessness and give a sense of meaning. However, from, again, our vantage point, it's not true.
Well, I want to take this sort of an argument to the absurd, right? Because if you're arguing that religions have a role to play in society, we still need them in our society because, you know, these studies show that they reduce anxiety or whatever, then I could just say, oh, well, I know something that's way better at reducing anxiety and hopelessness than religion. We could just 24/7 have an intravenous drip of black tar heroin into all these prisoners, and they don't have a single care or thought in the world about anything.
Oof.
And then, oh wow, like now all of a sudden I'm arguing that heroin is necessary for our society. It's like, I mean, what? Just because it makes these people feel better, that means that we should do it. Like, I mean, I think that the entire, like, I don't know, the entire conception of like people in prison and death row and everything, it comes from like a notion of justice that goes back to Judeo-Christian values in the first place. So yes, we're gonna have to, like, you know, go towards more of like rehabilitative justice, focusing on the best outcomes, and then that's what we should maximize for. Like, I mean, we should like assess what we're doing from every step to maximize the best outcomes. And I don't think that once we do that, that putting people in prison and on death row and then giving them religion to make them feel better is the best way to do any of this.
I agree. I'm not arguing that they are a necessity and it's something we should encourage. It actually highlights more problems in our society. One of them is proper healthcare, especially when it comes to psychology, which is quite expensive in a lot of cases. There was also an anecdotal example I wanted to give. This I cannot back up with a study. My partner is Russian, living in a Western European country, and she found solace in her church, even though I'm full-on atheist, on borderline agnostic at this point. And the problem is and this is more a generational thing than something else, those communities still come together there because of lack of alternatives. So the problem I see arising, because the criticism you and Amy gave, which are correct, I don't see how we can replace them cost effectively on the short term.
Well, I would say that, and Grayson kind of touched on this earlier, there aren't fantastic secular replacements. However, I think there are replacements, and I think in the future there's going to be even better ones. And so, for an example, I'm not a fan of AA. We get a lot of, great hoolah about it. I'm trying to think of the right word. Great reviews from Christians and others who say religion helps them get off addiction. And yet, if you look into a lot of these studies, these types of programs have not that great results. And not only that, but they almost have kind of this bait and switch in which many of these groups, many of which are court mandated, it is in you do this group and then you don't have to either go to jail or have probation. And oftentimes they are mixed in fundamentally with religion. They use language to try and obfuscate, I should say, to try and use bigger language to complicate things. They'll say you just need to find a higher power. And oftentimes, if you go down this list, we'll just name a higher power. We'll just say that you're going to surrender yourself to the higher power. We'll just, now just say that you need to give yourself to the higher power and that he is the one in control. And you just take a look at these programs and their pipelines to get, quasi-Christian Muslims that, are more what these people who, of course, created these programs, whether they truly have the intention to just get people off the addiction, seems like there's this other primary function, which is pipelines to religion. So we need alternatives. Alternatives, just like a psychologist whose primary function should not be trying to get you into their book club or whatever they want. It's trying to treat you to be a better person as a psychologist. We need those in all types of different directions. We need groups. Yeah. Oh no.
I agree, Amy. I agree,
yeah,
Amy. But
I want to echo what Amy was saying about like the sense of community as being one of the most important roles that religion has typically like played in society, like fostering a sense of like human connections, and some sort of like feeling of like a transcendental belonging above and beyond your own person. But humans can find that same exact feeling in many other things. You can lose your own sense of self and transcend yourself in a relationship, with your family, at a music concert, even like in an army. Like there's all sorts of different belongings in a group that can satisfy this feeling of community. Personally, what I think is that like the way that we have structured the way that we actually live on a day-to-day right now in the West, it doesn't really make that much sense in terms of like maximizing for a sense of like community. Like for example, like suburbia, like not really an idea that meshes with what we know about human psychology and needs. And so it seems like it's structuring the way that we live in a way that fosters like a sense of like feeling like a part of community and interacting with other humans in meaningful ways, just as a function of like the environments in which we live in, is probably a better way to structure society than like the suburban hellscape of like, every individual is isolated in their own little cookie cutter home. And then like, it's just really hard to feel a sense of connection with anybody outside of like, your own friend groups. And so, yeah, I think that that's a better way forward of like thinking about how we can restructure the way that we live to encourage meaningful human connections is a much better way to go than trying to basically promote untruths in order to create an artificial sense of those.
Rob M.
I do agree with most of the criticisms. I'm atheist bordering on agnostic thanks to J.L. Warren and a few other people. But I think we're exposing a certain failure in our society. I think we all know, based on recent studies, loneliness is on the rise. And I think we failed as a secular society in most nations to bring up solutions from the state or from society itself. Psychology and psychologists and therapists are way too expensive for most people. It's an unfortunate fact. We also have in certain regions of the world, we have a lack of enough qualified psychologists. Replacing lack of community can be found in certain images like football, sports, other activities. Although even there, because of the lack of it just about a certain hobby, it lacks a certain openness about problems that you drive it personally. So what I'm missing so far is, yes, there could be better solutions out there, but so far I haven't heard one.
So like you're basically asking like what are our specific examples to replace religion in a secular society, like beyond
hypothetical, like, yeah.
Other than what?
A hypothetical. I know it's hard to give something concrete.
Yeah. So then, like, do you not like what? Why do you think the example that I gave earlier was not what you were asking for? Because I went through an example about like transitioning from suburban models of living to more like models of living that are fostered around individual communities where you like. Does that not count as an example, or is that not specific? Why don't you seem to acknowledge that as providing an example of what you asked for?
I've seen of how we are structuring our societies. We're moving away from smaller communities and more in suburban areas where loneliness is higher. So I don't see it as a possible solution. If you look at the rates of loneliness, it tends to be higher in a city than in a smaller community.
But that's obviously not what I was saying, though, right? I mean,
but then I misheard you. This is not my native language, so
okay. So when I'm talking about structuring the way that we live around communities, I'm not talking about like mass city urbanism. I'm not talking about the way that we're currently doing things. Just because that there's a trend right now of increasing atomization and like alienating experiences in the West, in suburbia and in urban environments, and feeling like alone and disconnected from other humans. I recognize that that's a trend that is happening, but I'm not like, I don't think that has to be that has to be the case. Like, you can acknowledge that that's a problem, and then you can think about how other ways we could be living that would address that. So when I was talking about organizing the way that we live into communities, I was thinking more specifically like, instead of just having an apartment building where everybody just goes to their individual apartment in this little file cabinet of humans, like having your neighborhood arranged in such a way where you have communal spaces where you actually are spending time like close by to where you live with other people that live nearby in a communal spaces, either whether that could be parks are good for that, like local restaurants that are like in your building or something, like basically organizing it to where keeping it all under like individual neighborhood umbrellas, to where you are staying in your neighborhood and you're seeing other people that also live in your neighborhood on a day-to-day experience, just going about your normal tasks, is what needs to be more maximized to develop a sense of community for people. Like, we can reverse the trends that are happening right now in the West if we do so with intentionality. Yeah, I don't think that, like, just because it might be like, you know, from a realpolitik perspective, impractical right now because we don't have the power to make these kinds of political changes on large scales, that doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, I don't see that as a possibility of, like, you know, this is not a viable alternative to religion.
It's a good example. I live in a European country. I'm not willing to dox myself exactly where I live in. And the thing you are proposing is actually something that's happening right now in the area I'm living in. Most of the new apartment complexes, there are two new rules in gates. A, they have to be communal spaces. And B, there has to be 10% subsection for people who live under the poverty line, which is a good thing. In practice, about 10 of those projects has been built in the last 4 or 5 years. And we have seen that the communal spaces are actually underutilized and actually deteriorating, not being maintained by the community itself. So I'm not sure if it might be a solution. It could be a solution depending on which space of the world you are, but I don't see it as a solution in Europe at the moment.
Well, can I just say some ways which I think there could be extreme ways in which we replace it, in which we just have, you know, a church of being nice. And every Sunday you just go and think about being nice and kind to others with no God needed. I don't think we have to go that far. Like, I appreciate what you're saying is that when we put up just strict translation of what the religious are doing and we try to do it ourselves, it doesn't always translate. But I think there are actually natural, organic ways to have what Grayson was saying without it being like almost a chore that people have to maintain. I'll give you an example of one that just the group itself maintains it. I think movies are slowly a replacement for much of what we've had from myth. This is why I think superhero movies are so popular, because they use a very similar mythic structure to the same types of religious myths that we've been raised with. And so they create groups that either you're going to the movie and you're going with your friends, or you're seeing it online and then going on comment sections and talking with each other. But then you're also going to events. You're going to things like Comic-Con. You're dressing up as characters and you're creating a community which is just a shared love of this one thing. I think that's where the future of human society is going to go, because ultimately, at least as far as we can tell, there is no actual literal truth to any of the stories that any of these religions have created. All of it, any of it, is metaphorical. The same, just as like these movies and just like these people are creating. And so the future of that has to come from us. It might not be direct alternatives, because sometimes that may fail. There may be something within religion that was keeping it going. I mean, not to just be literal, but if you're going to have a built-in tithe, yeah, it's going to be a little bit easier to maintain that religion, because you're saying God told us that to give us money. But if we naturally create these alternatives, you know, capitalism itself has created it, so they create these communities. We can do so in other ways.
That's a good point. I just want to respond to what Speedmaster said earlier, but I think that's a really good point from Amy, because I was talking about, I guess, like physical communities like nearby your actual body, but yeah, you can get that same sense of transcendent belonging and meaning and purpose fulfillment from like digital spaces as well, and digital communities, and yeah, centering these things around shared passions and values is definitely great. And like the internet allows for that kind of connectivity, which is a really good point. Just to respond to what you had said before about your own particular circumstance. What I was talking about are cultural changes, which I don't think that anyone should reasonably expect to take place instantaneously overnight, like over like, or, 3 or 4 years or whatever you were saying, like 10 apartment
Agreed.
buildings. Yeah, like I'm saying that these changes are going to have to be basically like initiated from childhood. So like, yes, the adults are probably going to be underutilizing these community spaces because they've been raised without them. But children that are raised in these like more localized community spaces where they're playing with other children nearby, there are communal spaces for the children in the area, and like, for the elderly people in there as well. Like basically, I would expect the adults, the functioning adults, to be the very last segment of society to make this transition.
I agree. Like we need a cultural shift and change. And this is my last question. I can see a lot of hands raised, and I don't know how all the time. The only final note I would suggest is what we need to do and invest in our society is more access to mental health care. I think that would actually be a quick solution to a lot of the issues we see in
Absolutely.
society when it comes to loneliness and when it comes to recidivism in prison. That's my final question.
I don't know if it's a question because I think we all agree with you.
Okay, fine.
Exactly.
I will look more into the data of loneliness and the reasons why. I hope we can have this chat in the future with a bit more of data.
Sounds good. Thank you, Speedmaster.
Nice
Bye.
talking with you.
All right. So I see a new person with their hand up, Little Yoder. I have a feeling. Oh, wait. No, they left. Oh, there they are. So I see John and Wise Ape have their hands up, but yeah, and I like to prioritize, like I said before, I like to prioritize people who have not been up on the stage before. It's always kind of a risk. So I'll go ahead and given the comment that Little put in the side chat, but you know what? I'll take the risk. We'll see what happens.
Hi.
So, Little.
Guys, I'm in bed. I can't talk right now. Why did you invite me on the stage? I'm
Because
just
you're
listening.
raising your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Guys, come on. I'm in bed. I'm gonna sleep here. Jeez.
So apparently that person was server muted somewhere else on the channel. Bummer. Crazy. All right. So, well, yeah, if you don't raise your hand. So if you don't want to be up on the stage,
I
don't
gotta
raise
say,
your hand.
like, that guy was really, really a coherent sleep talker.
Pretty amazing.
He was indeed.
Like, usually when people sleep talk at me, it's just a bunch of nonsense. But wow, that guy seemed like he was really all put together.
Very coherent.
Definitely. I was more intrigued with though, like, he put the comment in there. It was like, these people are, our word. And I was like, really? So, and they started raising his hand. I was like, okay, let's bring him up.
I'm gonna say I love Taco's comment here in the chat, and the next time that a religious person asks me like, what evidence would I need to see that God is existing, I would say, look, yeah, if God wanted to convince me he was real, he would have to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
True.
See, now I'm gonna make an account and I'm gonna just label it God at God.com. And I'm going to subscribe to YouTube channel. It's just going to be God. And now you won't be able to know if it's whether or not it's him or not.
Wait. Do you see that Little Yoder is raising his hand yet again?
Yes. And it keeps like pinging. So I'm wondering how I can shut that down.
He's got to be a troll at this point.
Yeah.
No, the type of just like the way he was talking, my like Trolldar went off immediately. As much as I love you, Little Yoder.
I had a feeling that's the way it was, but I keep getting the notification that their hand is up. Maybe Taco can handle it. I'll leave it to an admin. I see John has their hand up, and so does Wise Ape. So John, let me go ahead and bring you up. I know you've been up before. You've had your hand up for a while, so appreciate you hanging out. What's going on here, bud?
Hey man, come on! I'm wide awake here. What are you doing? Oh shit! But I feel like I should have been taking notes because I had thoughts when what's his name? Dowris something, the guy earlier on that was almost first up.
Yeah, you were saying in the side chat that you were going to refute the syllogism that was like it was like a little copy pasta in the chat there about idealism, I guess, or consciousness being fundamental or whatever it was.
Well, I figured my main reputation, because like I said, I'm not educated. I don't know all the smart words and all. I don't sit up here and say I'm a cosmic fantastist, whatever the ists and the isms. I have no definition. I am just me.
I'm actually an anti-cosmodistina.
Me too.
So, but it was just when he came up with his thought experiment, the first thing that sort of jumped into my mind was this doesn't make any sense. And then when he did the copy paste thing there in the chat after that, it was like this is just the same thing. It doesn't make sense. So I thought I'd try my own thought experiment using his logic. So I took his logic and I applied it, as I always do, to my own little version of little story thing. And I thought, okay, well, I want you to imagine a thought experiment, if you will, about a steakhouse, a good old Texas steakhouse, with good old, some big, thick lump of meat, as we all love. And I'm hoping that there are no vegetarians here because let's okay. It's either a big, fat, juicy steak or a wonderful, well prepared piece of alternative. There.
I mean, I was born and raised in Texas, so you're preaching to the choir over here on the Texas barbecue.
Yeah. See, you got the text there. You got the potato wedges on the sides, there, and of course you need some sort of condiment, some sort of sauce. So I want you to imagine, for the sake of this thought experiment, that you're offered mayonnaise or ketchup.
I gotta stop you, man, because you said in the live chat that you just finished eating and then you came on here. And I am getting hungrier and hungrier by the minute with this little thought experiment of yours. Like, this is you're making me starving over here, man.
I will turn you off as I get to the end of this one. So imagine you're offered then a choice for your steak of either ketchup or mayonnaise. Which one would you consider to be the superior choice?
Don't be blasphemous. Did I win?
Wait, to put on a steak?
Yeah, to put on a steak. Which would
nothing,
given that
nothing. You put the only condiment the only thing you ever put on a steak is you either put blue cheese or you put mushrooms, or maybe even onions. You don't put ketchup or mayo, or you don't put stuff like that on it. If the steak is done correctly, you don't need to put anything on it.
There you go. So right. that is what I wanted to do, to just highlight the fact that his thought experiment, where he gave up his thinking, creation, whatever thing of the universe, like it precluded the opportunity to have a third one. He gave you two choices. You chose the better of the two choices, but then he said, "Oh, well, Occam's razor. Clearly, you believe this is the only best choice," and it precluded all other potential better choices. And I just wanted to highlight that for him. That's all I really wanted to do to counter his thought experiment BS. If that makes any sense.
A false dichotomy.
Yeah, if that makes it. Yeah, I mean it's I don't know the big old long words. That's just I think about steak. That's all I do.
Me too. You and me both.
But now that's all I'm doing.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but then I came back in. Sorry.
I haven't actually eaten breakfast yet. So I woke up, got prepped, went and got my wake up juice that I needed, and then had a cigarette, and then jumped on here and started doing this. And I'm and this is after doing a pub crawl last night. So I haven't eaten anything. I'm getting so hungry because I have a breakfast burrito waiting out there that my wife got for me.
Oh my God. Are we living the same life, Jail?
I think we are.
Like why?
So bear in mind,
Like
all
I
the
can't believe your wife is also waiting outside with a breakfast burrito for me.
I have a breakfast burrito waiting for you.
But
No, I'm kidding. I actually like really wish that I had someone who loved me waiting for me with a breakfast burrito right now. That sounds amazing.
I always come back to Kevin Smith, you know, in his original movie Clerks. Is like, there's a million freaking fine women out there, man, but not all of them will bring you lasagna at work. Most of them will just cheat on you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's a million fucking fine women out there, but not all of them will be waiting outside your office with a breakfast burrito.
Like when this stream is done, I'm just gonna have to go get my own breakfast burrito and then eat it deliciously by myself. Or yeah, but I'm still gonna love it, and it's still gonna be great. Anyway, I'm like, sorry, I'm like,
you both get breakfast burritos.
You literally, John, you derailed me so much. I'm like literally only thinking about food now.
Think back to all of the stages of reason that have ever been held, and all the trolls that have come in here to kind of like make your life more difficult, and how you've handled them and dealt with it, and everyone moves on. And then I came in and talked about steak. I win, trolls. I am the best troll of them all because I came in and spoke about steak.
It's true.
I mean, you know what? It's hard to argue against the facts.
This is true.
No, it's there. So bear that in mind, Yoda. It's come in and talk about steak instead.
You've infected my live chat now people in my live chat are talking about like man, I'm getting so hungry. Why not a breakfast taco? It's like it's just now everybody's talking about it. See, this is what mirror neurons do, man. This is when we start talking about things and spreading these ideas. You got me. Now I'm freaking hungry as hell.
With apologies. Anyway, so I came back there, and the other point of conversation, to bring it back in line to the conversation there. The other discussion I came back into was the discussion of like what seemed like religion and prison, something related to that. There.
Who doesn't like religion in prison? Come on.
I think he was trying to make the argument that religion still has an important role to play in society, and as examples of that, he was showing that amongst like prisoners or inmates on death row or something, that feelings of hopelessness and anxiety are reduced when they find religion.
I can give a first-hand account that sort of counters that, but slightly supports it. So for the chat and for everyone listening, back when I was 18 years old, I spent a short amount of time in Her Majesty's wonderful hotel. It was an experience, but what I found was that, like, not for the main Sunday.
Are you talking about prison or Buckingham Palace?
Yeah. I'm talking about prison. Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page here. I'm just an American trying to keep up.
I went to Buckingham Palace and found religion. Yeah. But
I don't know what goes on across the pond. Okay, I don't.
No, I spent my time in one of Her Majesty's finest hotels, with 3 meals a day and a well kept room that I was responsible for. But during that time, of course, it was very stressful for me there. So I wouldn't go to the Sunday morning services with everyone else. What I would do is that they had this sort of Bible study course that was in the afternoons that nobody attended. There were like 4 or 5 people who would attend there, and I would just go and hang out there. And the woman who ran it was a volunteer, and she would just let us in and would sit down, and we'd say we were there for Bible study. What we'd actually be doing, we'd be sitting around and just smoking cigarettes and hanging out. That provided so much peace for me to be able to sit down with other people and just share sort of experience and stuff. And I got lots of little stories around that. That was far better for me and my mental health than the actual religion side of it. But that could only really exist as part of the church in prison, because they're given this space. You're given this opportunity in prison. That couldn't be organized in any other way than by under the umbrella of the church. And of course, it's non-secular for prison there, because everyone's got.
Can I share something that has nothing to do with prison, but it's similar but not the same thing? So I come from a Jewish background. I was sent to Hebrew school, And let's just say me and my friends were not psyched about it. And so what we would do is we would learn when the most religious prayers were. They would lock the doors during that time. We would go to the bathroom, get stuck outside, and for 30 or 40 minutes, Pokemon was the rage back then. I got to play Pokemon instead of Doom.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's not as much of a diversion as you'd imagine. Yeah, you find a quiet space away from the chaos. That's what religion is. But you could just as easily do it without putting it under the umbrella, under that label of religion, and it works. And on top of that, like I now live in Sweden, and I've got a friend of mine who is a musician. She plays a violin, and she's quite often performs for weddings and christenings and various other events around Sweden. And for a while, I would follow along with her and help her with like tasks, just lifting, carrying, all the other small things, keeping her awake on the long drives. And she would most of the events that she would be hired to work at were in churches because they're public spaces, and so you quite often you would hold these events there. And I visited so many of these small towns. And the main church of all of these small towns would most often be at the end of the main street, slightly raised on top of the hill. It was the central point of every one of these small towns. Historically, we have put the church at the center of our society. That has been our communal space there. But we just need to, as a society nowadays, recognize that it's not the religion, it's that space. That's the important bit, that little bit of connection with the people next to us.
Exactly.
It can just,
you didn't need a jail to basically connect with humans, and I didn't need a synagogue to connect with my friends. We ended up finding human connections because we find the little cracks within, society to find who we are and to find our friends and loved ones and all of this. But it's more that religion, I feel like, is more tacked on now than all of these other things. If we were to just, if we had better ways, especially here in America, let me tell you, our prison system, if we had better ways to maybe treat, not only our prisoners, but to treat others without a religious alternative, we'd have these values. I'd still be able to play games. You would be able to connect with people, and we wouldn't have these crazy, superstitious institutions draining all this money and energy away from our society.
Well, imagine what it would be like if the federal government actually subsidized more community organizations beyond prison, religion, and public schools. So it's like what the federal government puts their money into and supporting these things. We're basically just basic support structures, okay, where they get like legitimate, decent federal subsidization in order to cover the cost of actually maintaining them. So a lot of the secular stuff, or a lot of the non-believing based stuff, that's coming out of people's pockets with very little help very little, if any, help from the government at all. The problem is because the federal government in this country subsidizes religion and subsidizes prison and subsidizes public schooling, we're going to get a kind of like, those are your big things. But anything smaller, those important social systems that we need as a social species, anything smaller, that's going to come out of our pockets. So if the government put more emphasis on that, then religion would see heavy competition from other groups that allow and are able to, sustain themselves in competition with them. But so long as the government's putting kind of like in that reverse taxation sense, putting the money there, then, they're going to have the lion's share of the control.
And my idea earlier about like the shared public spaces that you would just naturally find yourself in on your day-to-day routine is because like rather than having it like be a weekly thing that you like once a week you go to the public meeting and you all meet together and stuff, and it's like, to me, like, I just knowing myself, I probably wouldn't go and do that. Like, so I like it better when the public spaces and the communal shared spaces it's not like just some place at the end of Main Street that you go to once a week. It's just like you just naturally going about your errands, find yourself in these shared places, and they're enjoying, they're cool places to spend time in. You want to like read a book, get some extra work done or whatever, and you can just hang out in these public spaces. That's what I like advocating for, rather than just like trying to like just have a sort of church, but then you just secularize it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that JL is in a Discord. I thought I won't name, but I'll just be. So we'll be polite. So we're in a shared Discord. I'm pretty sure. I posted photographs in there the other day after, there'd been some chaos with some shitbirds, and so I posted some sort of like decompressing photographs. Here's some happy photographs. I went for a walk not far from where I live, and I took pictures of all sorts of fun, cool things. These things should exist in any town, whether it's here or where you guys are. You should be able to walk out your door, maybe hop on a bus and take a short journey, and you should be able to find something interesting, be it a museum, be it a public park, or be it there should be something out there to enjoy, and people should be encouraged to do that, to be out there and say, I've got nothing to do today, I'm going to go and look at the moose, because why not? I'm going to go look at the penguins.
We're like zoo animals that don't have enough environment enrichment in our enclosure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very true.
I want a tire and a rope to push around. That's all I want.
The most I can tell you that the most like emotionally at peace I've ever been, like just where I'm the most relaxed, everything is when I am in the middle of nowhere. And I've always been able to connect that way. It was the way I was raised. It was the things that I learned, my experience, that and being an Eagle Scout and having a scoutmaster that was an Army, like he was like a 22-year, 23-year Army Ranger. I had a very unique scouting experience. So I found myself in a lot of places that, some people would probably find very inhospitable, and learning and just basically reconnecting with just, the earth itself. And so I love doing that. You stick me in the middle of nowhere, stick me in the middle of the Pacific Northwest, with a knife, and that's pretty much all I need. And I love doing that because it focuses the mind. That's what I find is just that reconnection there. In my office, I surround myself with things that I like, but there's just urbanization.
What's really funny about that? That I heard an anthropologist say the other day that I feel like kind of what you were just describing tracks with what they were saying. It's like for most of human history, when we were hunter-gatherers, what we conceived of as being work, hard labor, were things like you were just describing as being like the things that you enjoy to do as like the leisure enjoyment activities. You like going out in nature with nothing but a knife and trying to survive on your own wits or whatever. Like that's hard work to a hunter-gatherer. That is their job. Like that's what they spend their actual like labor hours doing. And then like in the modern world, we work so much, and then on our days off, we go like hiking or fishing or hunting. Like these are literally the work of a hunter-gatherer. It's like, so the things that hunter-gatherers do for their leisure time, which are the normal leisurely activities for humans to be engaging in, are like, when are we ever having time for that?
Right.
And I just want to point out that if I ever get lost in the wilderness and I have a Walmart and a McDonald's, I think I'll survive.
You lost in the urban jungle, but yeah, it's weird how I love that you pointed it out, Grace, and it's weird how it's kind of the things that were the struggles of survival 5, 10, 25,000 years ago have now become the leisure away from the daily grind that we have built around ourselves.
Yeah, like that's our escape. Our escape from work is doing the work of our ancestors.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just there's something freeing in the simplicity of it. Focusing on a single task that is the most right now in this moment. That is the most important task. That task must be done, and being able to focus. You realize that's the only thing that's important. I have one thing to focus on. I don't need to multitask. I don't need to consider all these other things. I have to do this, and I get that done, and then I move to the next thing. And I love the simplicity. I love the focus. I love the connection there. And once you've accomplished it, you're done. You're good. So
yeah. And to maybe connect a little bit with religion, I mean, if we take that sort of evolution that we as human beings have taken, back in the day, religion was a necessary, survival mechanism, a sort of coping mechanism for this world is big and scary. How do I make sense of it? Now we don't have the need for that, but there are people who still hold on to that as a sort of crutch. But we don't need that coping mechanism to make sense of this big, scary world as we're hunting, gathering, and being hunted by bigger and nasty creatures with teeth and claws. The world is not as big and scary as it used to be.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, this is fantastic, John. I actually think because we don't have any more hands up, and I think we're at a good spot. I can hear Grayson's stomach rumbling from here, despite the fact that he's muted. The actual the gravitational waves are coming out and hitting me and making me hungrier.
I was sure there's somebody else.
So I actually think this is a good spot. I think this is a good spot. It's a little past 1 o'clock, and I don't think we need to push it to 2. I think we're good. And Grace can go get something to eat. Amy can get something to eat. You can too. I can as well. And I think we're in a good spot. So I appreciate you coming up, John. Thank you very much, man.
As always, a pleasure. Take care now.
Take care.
Yeah, we appreciate you making us crave steak. But okay, no, thank you very much. It was a good conversation.
Anytime.
Take care, bud.
Take care. Bye.
All right. So thank you, John. And first and foremost, I think we're going to close it out here. This is a good place to stop it. We're kind of dying down a little bit. I think people are getting hungry. I think John made everybody hungry. So we're probably going to go get some lunch and get our grub on. A huge giant thank you to my guest, to Amy Newman. Thank you so much for joining me. And Grayson, thank you so much for debuting here on the Stage of Reason.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure having me on and being on the stream with Amy. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of really interesting ideas exchanged.
I enjoyed this. I like the trimmed down version of the panel. This is the most people I've had on the panel talking at one time, and I loved doing 17% less talking than I usually do. So that was enjoyable for me. But I dig this. One guest, 2 guests. I think this works out fantastically. Keeping it nice and trim so everybody can get their thoughts out. We're not all diving all over one another. I dig that. So thank you, both of you. I can't wait to have you on future stages of Reason. Every third Sunday, we do this here on the Politics Discord. So thank you to Politics Discord. Thank you to Taco for adminning and getting us all sorted out. But the next one will, of course, be in April. It'll be April 20th. So 420. 420 on the Stage of Reason. How is that not just coincidence?
I have a prediction for that, JL. However bad the munchies might have been on this stream, I think it might get worse next month.
I agree.
I might be chowing on stream. I'm into 420. So, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do these things again. We're going to get it all set up, and hopefully we won't run into the tech issues that we did this time, but we'll get it all set up for April 420. So remember that. Mark that in your calendars. And thank you to everybody in my live chat. Thank you for all the super chats, all the membership milestones, and all the super thanks. I do appreciate those. You guys rock. And to be sure to check out Amy Newman's channel and Grayson Hawk's channel. Check out their YouTube channels. They do amazing content. And I'm going to tag you guys in the description of this. I like to leave my guests as a surprise. So I will tag you guys in the description here so people can find you and subscribe to your channels and get you those views.
JL, the chat's pointing out, it's not just 420. It literally is Easter Sunday, and we all didn't even realize.
Oh, my.
Holy shit,
Well,
is it really?
We were talking about the actual important things that are taking place, but I guess Easter.
When you were mark it on your calendars, I'm oh, it best believe it's already on my calendar.
It's already there, yeah. Holy, son of a bitch, it is fucking Easter. Holy crap. Okay, so yeah, it's 420, it's Easter, and it's a Sunday, it's Stage of Reason. It's going to be an amazing one. Maybe, possibly.
I want to apologize for all of us on the panel being such bad Christians and not knowing the date of Easter.
I wasn't even paying attention to it. It's you see how important it is to me. All right, guys. Well, thank you to everybody here in the live chat, here in the audience, here on Politics Discord. If you haven't, and anybody in the live chat, if you haven't joined Politics Discord, hit the link. It's in the description. Join us over here. We have these conversations all the time. Lots of fantastic channels you can engage in: politics, theology, religion, science, philosophy, anything you want. We got it all. So thank you all very much for joining us. Any closing out, Amy, any closing words for everybody?
Yeah, I think we heard a lot of good discussions today. I don't think anything that might necessarily win over a skeptic. However, it was a good back and forth. I also appreciate the skeptics that came on. But I do want to just welcome Grayson. It was lovely having you. Welcome on board. You should all go check out not only Grayson's channel, but he does many great debates. And then sending love to you, JL. It was lovely having you and Taco. Send love to Taco. Both of you hosting this and bringing us all on for some fun.
Thank you. Grayson, anything you want to close us out with?
Yeah. So what I was talking about earlier about the people that identify as being reasonable, logical, rational people, I like to think of myself that way. So that's why I love these debates, these arguments, because I like to think that the things that I believe, I have reasons to believe them, like good reasons. And if I am shown that I don't have a good reason to believe something that I believe, then I change that belief. That's the thing, is that thinking of myself as a sane, rational, logical, reasonable person, that's what a person like that does. So what I heard from today, from some of the theists that were making the arguments, was basically like a bunch of vibes, and like I feel like it's true, and that's good enough for my feelings, I guess. I don't know. Like it just, we never reached any sufficiently good reasons to believe any of these things. So yeah, if you think that you do have good reasons to believe in whatever you believe, and it's different from what I believe, I want to talk to you about it. So yeah, come check out my channel. I do a call-in stream too, so that people can have conversations if they want. So yeah, check it out, because I really, really love having these kinds of discussions, and it helps me learn about my own positions more, learn about how to articulate them better, how to defend them better, and overall just the exchange of ideas is what I'm really into, and learning new things. So thanks to JL, thank you to Amy for facilitating a place where we can all have like discussions like that, because I definitely do not think that these are just atheist virtue signaling. I think that we're all getting something out of this. At least I know that I am.
Hell yeah.
Amen.
Hell yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you all again. Appreciate it. And everybody out there, this has been awesome. So we'll catch you on the next one. 420 Easter Sunday, Stage of Reason. We'll announce the guests when we get there. It'll be a surprise again. We'll see who's available. It's gonna be a good one. So everybody out there,
Snoop
take
Dogg.
care. Hell yeah.
It's Snoop Dogg.
And I'm gonna go ahead and close down the stage. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Go get something to eat, because we're all starving. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, Grayson. Thank you, Amy.
Good night, y'all.
Peace in the Middle East.
Peace. All right. So that was the Stage of Reason. That was excellent. So fantastic stuff. All right. I appreciate everybody hanging out. This was a blast. We are coming up on the 4-hour mark, so we're in good shape. I think this was a good place to close it. But yeah, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me. So I hope you enjoyed it. The conversations we had, not a lot of trolling, which was good. So, but we had some interesting conversations and talked to some interesting people. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the super thanks. Thank you for the membership milestones. I love seeing those. Those are fantastic. And all the support of this channel. I couldn't do it without you. So glad you enjoyed it. That's pretty much it. I'm JL. This has been the Stage of Reason. Like I said, every third Sunday of the month. So keep those notifications on. Here when we go live. Next one's Easter Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Most of these are probably going to be in church, but we may catch a few. We may catch a few strays. So we'll see what happens. Y'all take care. As always, thank you for the support. Be safe. Be excellent to each other. And together we can bridge the divide. Gotta get something to eat.